Chapter 1299, Dangers Abound 1. Shortly thereafter, the severely injured Mo Yinxian was invited to leave the main hall. The Eternal Emperor took a deep breath and said, "Everyone arise." It was only then that everyone dared to resume their seats. "Our guests from the Temple of Shadows have not enjoyed themselves because I have not arranged things properly," the Eternal Emperor said as he looked at Lady Ghost. Lady Ghost smiled without saying anything. The disturbance caused by Mo Yinxian had left everyone speechless. They lost interest in the banquet and left quickly. For many of them, it would be a sleepless night. At the residence of the eldest prince, I did not expect our royal father to make Ling Yin the crown prince. The eldest princess was sitting on a chair looking subdued. The eldest prince wrinkled his brow in deep thought. Ling Yin becoming the crown prince had been a surprise. He had assumed that the arrival of the ambassadors from the Temple of Shadows would improve his chances. But in the end, Ling Yin had become the crown prince. Today has been hard on Elder Yi. I hope Elder Yi will not take it to heart. It is my fault for being unprepared. The eldest prince did not mention the matter of Ling Yin being made crown prince, but raised his head to look apologetically at Yi Qingtang, who was sitting in the hall. At this, the eldest princess also snapped out of her trance. It was a fact that Ling Yin had been made crown prince. However, the crown prince was just a crown prince. They still had a chance before he became the emperor. In fact, the Temple of Shadows was now even more important to them. This Mo Yinxian is really spoiled. Does she really think her Mo family is the most important in the capital? Our royal father clearly showed his partiality to Ling Yin today. Mo Yinxian is Ling Yan's fiancée. If she were to be severely punished, Ling Yan would certainly be implicated. But our royal father did not show any clear intention of punishing her. Sigh. The eldest princess sighed while she observed the reaction of the group from the Temple of Shadows from the corner of her eye. Yi Qingtang was not stupid. She could read between the lines of what the eldest prince and princess were saying. The Temple of Shadows was supporting the eldest prince. The eldest prince and princess were probably delighted that Ling Yan's fiancé had clashed with Yi Qingtang. The more Ling Yan's side offended the Temple of Shadows, the greater the eldest prince's advantage. I thought that after our fourth royal brother passed away, there would be much delay in deciding on the next crown prince. I did not expect our royal father to make a decision so quickly, the eldest prince said with a frown. Lady Ghost looked at the gloomy eldest prince and princess and said, "The crown prince is only a crown prince, like the fourth prince was. The position of crown prince can be held by many, but only the last person to be crown prince will be the next emperor of the eternal dynasty. Am I right?" Lady Ghost's words moved the eldest prince, and his brow smoothed out. Guardian Lady Ghost is right. It doesn't matter who the crown prince is. What is most important is whether the person in the position of crown prince is fortunate enough to survive until he can ascend to the throne. I'm glad that the eldest prince understands that. I've heard that the third prince Ling Yan's martial ability is not very great. Even the late fourth prince was much more talented than him. However, even the fourth prince has passed away suddenly, so what chance does Ling Yan have? Lady Ghost's lips curved slightly as her eyes flickered. Why doesn't the eldest prince use his time to consider how Ling Yan can be induced to leave the position of crown prince? Thank you for your guidance. The eldest prince cupped his hands. Although nothing concrete had been said, everyone present was smart enough to understand what had been implied. Chapter 1300 Dangers Abound 2. It's late. Please get some rest, the eldest prince said politely. Lady Ghost, Yi Qingtang, and Minggu all returned to their rooms to rest. Yi Qingtang had had a relaxing day. Anyway, she was supposed to be just an elder, so Lady Ghost had taken care of everything. "Yao, can I come in?" Minggu had secretly crept outside Yi Qingtang's room door, and now, he poked his head through the doorway and looked pitifully at Yi Qingtang. Yi Qingtang looked at the exquisite little face. She was hard-pressed to reconcile this innocent face with the murderous god of killing in the main hall. She nodded, and Minggu immediately flew to her side. "Yao, that smelly grub was so insulting. Why didn't you let me kill her?" Minggu squatted next to Yi Qingtang, his small hands on Yi Qingtang's knee. He rested his small chin between his little hands. His large, black eyes filled with bewilderment. Yi Qingtang chuckled but felt helpless. Although Mo Yinxian had insulted her, one blow from Minggu was as much as she could withstand. Also, she guessed that based on her character, the actual Holy Lord of Shadows would not have allowed Minggu to actually kill Mo Yinxian either. Someone like Mo Yinxian was probably beneath the Holy Lord of Shadows' notice. Because today, I am only an elder from the Temple of Shadows and not the Holy Lord, Yi Qingtang said with a smile. She could not help but reach out to pat Minggu's furry little head. Minggu frowned. He did not care whether she was an elder or the Holy Lord. Ayao was Ayao. Yi Qingtang saw that Minggu was not prepared to let it go. She was about to say something else when the faint aura of death suddenly spread through her room. Yi Qingtang's heart thumped for a moment, but she maintained her composure and continued to rub Minggu's hair smilingly. The next moment, Lady Ghost's lazy voice rang out from within the room. Holy Son Minggu, the Holy Lord made the right decision. We are here to help the Eternal Prince become the Crown Prince. If we started killing today, the Eternal Emperor would have been displeased. Lady Ghost slowly emerged from a dim corner and bowed to Yi Qingtang. Why do I need to care about what a smelly grub thinks? Minggu frowned impatiently. So what if he was the Eternal Emperor? If he was displeased, Minggu would kill him too. Lady Ghost was used to Minggu's nature. To Minggu, all humans were smelly grubs. They had no reason to exist. Even within the Temple of Shadows, the only two people that Minggu listened to were the Holy Lord of Shadows and Ming Wang. Other than that, Minggu did as he pleased. Lady Ghost knew that she could not convince Minggu, so she did not say anything more. Instead, she looked at Yi Qingtang. Holy Lord, the Eternal Emperor's move today was earlier than anticipated. However, it should not be a major problem. Tonight, the eldest prince will certainly investigate everything related to Ling Yan. Barring all other accidents, the eldest prince will try his best to make Ling Yan vanish forever from the Eternal Emperor, just like the fourth prince. Lady Ghost was not interested in why the fourth prince had died, but she was certain that the fourth prince's death had been caused by the other princes and princesses, and Ling Yan was their next target. Yi Qingtang nodded calmly, keeping her expression casual, but in her heart, she was silently mourning for Ling Yan. Chapter 1301. Dangers Abound 3. This was not a good time for Ling Yan to become the crown prince. Not only would the powers on the eldest prince's side try to kill him, but the second princess would also be scheming all night to get rid of him. Ling Yan faced not only his siblings, but also the powers behind them, the sacred ground of reflection and the Temple of Shadows. However, Yi Qingtang somehow felt that Ling Yan was not as easy to deal with as everyone thought. Ling Yan had the power of karma. Surely he could predict these things. When Yi Qingtang thought about it, she realized she was being absurd. She could barely save herself. She certainly did not have the time and energy to worry about Ling Yan's safety. One should know that dangers had abounded at today's banquet. Logically, Lady Ghost should have done something when Mo Yinxian had insulted her. But from start to finish, Lady Ghost had not acted at all. Although this could be explained as Lady Ghost deliberately concealing Yi Qingtang's status as the Holy Lord, Yi Qingtang also knew that Lady Ghost's inaction served to further intensify the unhappiness between her and Mo Yinxian, so that Ling Yan could tell who she really was more quickly. Yi Qingtang had not forgotten Ming Wang's plans. Lady Ghost spoke to Yi Qingtang for a little longer before she left. Although he was reluctant, Yi Qingtang also persuaded Minggu to return to his room. Yi Qingtang only heaved a sigh of relief after they left. Ling Yan was currently in an unpleasant situation, but so was she. Ming Wang had placed Lady Ghost by her side as a watchdog. She needed to exercise extreme caution at every moment. She might inwardly be filled with grievances, but she still had to adopt the air of the Holy Lord. She had suffered enough. Yi Qingtang just wanted to sleep, but the conversation between the eldest prince and Lady Ghost kept surfacing in her mind. She involuntarily took out the voice transmission stone. She hesitated for a moment, then activated it. Ling Yan. Ling Yan's slightly indolent voice sounded from the voice transmission stone. What are you doing? Asked Yi Qingtang. Waiting for you, Ling Yan's voice held the hint of a smile. Yi Qingtang suddenly had the impulse to fling the voice transmission stone aside. But she quickly recovered and said seriously, "Don't talk rubbish. I haven't settled accounts with you for your fiancé's actions today. And how would Miss Yi like to settle them?" "I'll do whatever you wish," Ling Yan said with a laugh. Yi Qingtang felt that if she continued to wrangle with him, she would end up digressing. So she stopped beating around the bush and spoke bluntly. "Since you have helped me so much, I will warn you out of the kindness of my heart that your eldest brother is going to expedite investigations into your circumstances. I guess that your eldest brother or older sisters will be doing their utmost to kill you. You'd better watch out." He still had the mood to tease her in these circumstances. The moment Yi Qingtang finished speaking, Ling Yan's melodious laughter emerged from the voice transmission stone. His good mood was apparent just from his tone. "So Miss Yi is so concerned about me. She should not have contacted him. She should have just let him die. Their intention to kill me is not new. If they had that kind of ability, I would not have survived until today. Miss Yi does not need to worry," Ling Yan said gently. "Who's worried? I'm just reminding you," Yi Qingtang muttered. Chapter 1302. A Conspiracy 1. "Just as you say, Miss Yi," Ling Yan said good-naturedly. Yi Qingtang felt that she was quickly running out of things to say. She should not worry about him. Before Ling Yan could continue, Yi Qingtang switched off the voice transmission stone. She inwardly despised herself for worrying over nothing. So far, she had not yet met anyone who could get the best of Ling Yan. When she thought of that, Yi Qingtang could not be bothered to pursue her train of thought any further. However, she was not sure what the Temple of Shadows would do in this fight to help the eldest prince be crown prince. If she made the slightest mistake, she might expose herself. Then, she need not worry about helping Ling Yan because they would both be dead. Yi Qingtang fell asleep midway through her thoughts. Shortly after Yi Qingtang got up the next morning, she understood why Ling Yan had been so calm yesterday. At that moment, the eldest prince was sitting despondently in the hall. Minggu and Lady Ghost, with Yi Qingtang in tow, walked into the hall together, only to see the eldest prince and princess sitting there gloomily. "I didn't expect our royal father to place so much importance on our third royal brother." The eldest prince frowned deeply, with an irritated expression on his face. Yi Qingtang did not know what had happened in the night, but she clearly sensed the eldest prince's annoyance. "Guardian Lady Ghost, my eldest royal brother investigated Ling Yan's situation yesterday, and," the eldest princess said with a frown. She recounted the results of the eldest prince's investigations. Ling Yan's skills were average, and no one took any notice of them. He was most widely praised for his intelligence. The eldest prince wanted to target Ling Yan's poor skills, and secretly sent men to kill Ling Yan. But the next morning he received the news. After yesterday's banquet, the Eternal Emperor sent his personal elite group of powerful cultivators to Ling Yan's residence. He said that he was providing Ling Yan with more attendants, but in reality, each of these was more powerful than the next. He had clearly sent them to protect Ling Yan. Even the eldest prince's powerful cultivators were no match for the Eternal Emperor's men. "Your royal father is not a stupid monarch." He did not say much about the fourth prince's death, but he knew what happened. Now that Ling Yan has been recently made crown prince, he will not allow another tragedy to happen. So he's prepared, Lady Ghost said as she rested a finger on her chin. "It won't be easy to kill Ling Yan with these people around. Unless," the eldest prince's gaze involuntarily turned towards Lady Ghost. The Temple of Shadows was immensely powerful. The eldest prince and princess men might not be able to deal with the situation, but the Temple of Shadows certainly could. "No." The eldest prince refused the eldest princess' suggestion outright before Lady Ghost could even speak. The powerful cultivators from the Temple of Shadows would be detected too easily if they were to act. Everyone from the Temple of Shadows was from the undead clan. Their moves could clearly be identified. The eldest princess frowned, but at that moment, a servant suddenly announced that the second princess, Ling Yu, was at the door. When they heard the news, the eldest prince and princess immediately knew what was going on. The second princess had probably reached the same conclusions as they did. The second princess was rapidly invited to enter. Yi Qingtang watched as Ling Yan's 3 siblings gathered. They were clearly conspiring to kill Ling Yan. Someone really induced hatred. Chapter 1303. A Conspiracy 2. Did my royal brother and sister sleep well last night? The second princess sat primly. She had rather narrow eyes that were set in a cold face, and her eyes now swept over the eldest prince and princess. Of course we slept well. Although the eldest prince had already guessed the second prince's thoughts, he continued to maintain his posture of a kindly elder brother. Rather, it was the eldest princess whose eyes glittered with disdain when she looked at the second princess. The second princess laughed coldly and ignored the eldest prince's calm reply. Eldest royal brother must be in a good mood to be able to sleep so well. But I could not sleep at all last night. Oh, is our second royal sister worried about something? The eldest prince pretended not to understand. The second princess grunted coldly and smoothed out a small wrinkle in her sleeve. Eldest royal brother, why bother with this pretense at stupidity? You probably didn't sleep a wink either. As she spoke, the second princess did not wait for the eldest prince to reply and said bluntly, I am not here for this. Our royal father made Ling Yan the crown prince yesterday. Eldest royal brother, that must have been unpleasant for you. After all, you had just invited the ambassadors from the Temple of Shadows, but the position of crown prince fell to someone else. Second royal sister, I don't understand what you are saying. It is our royal father's will for our third royal brother to be the crown prince. I have no complaints, the eldest prince said with a smile. The second princess detested the eldest prince's hypocrisy. Although he always acted like a gentleman, he was actually more like a beast. Eldest royal brother, I shall just be direct. Ling Yan, you and I have fought for the position of crown prince for a long time. Eldest royal brother and sister previously worked together to imprison Ling Yan. Ling Yan will not easily overlook this wrong. If he really becomes the emperor one day, what kind of life will my eldest royal brother and sister have? The second prince's words caused the eldest prince's expression to change slightly. Today, I have personally come here to form an alliance with my eldest royal brother. We should set our quarrels aside. Our immediate problem is Ling Yan, who is currently the crown prince. He is our true enemy, the second princess continued. The eldest prince's expression grew more solemn, and the smile on his face vanished. He took a small breath, and the warmth in his eyes was replaced with a sharp look. Second royal sister, you are here at just the right time. I was just discussing the matter with the ambassadors from the Temple of Shadows. When the second princess saw that the eldest prince was finally speaking the truth, a trace of amusement appeared in her eyes. She looked over at Yi Qingtang and the others, who were sitting nearby. I wonder if the ambassadors from the Temple of Shadows have any good suggestions? The second princess and the eldest prince had been enemies. But now, they had a common enemy, and so they secretly formed a temporary alliance. Lady Ghost laughed softly, but her gaze naturally fell on Yi Qingtang, and everyone else in the hall also looked at her. Yi Qingtang really had nothing to say. Lady Ghost was clearly testing her to see how she reacted. What sin had she committed? Yi Qingtang secretly took a deep breath, but continued to smile faintly. She slowly reached out and lifted her teacup from the table, then took a leisurely sip. The emperor makes the final decision on who will be the crown prince. If the emperor likes you, he can make you the crown prince. But if he doesn't, he can just as easily strip the crown prince of his title. Chapter 1304. A Conspiracy 3. Elder Yi is right, but our third royal brother has always been intelligent and competent. He seldom does anything that displeases our royal father. Otherwise, we would not be in this state, the eldest prince said with a soft sigh. No matter how competent he is unable to ensure that everyone around him is incorrupt, Yi Qingtang said blandly. Yi Qingtang's words gave everyone a jolt. Does Elder Yi mean we should approach from the angle of the people that surround him? The second princess asked tentatively. Yi Qingtang rested her cheek on her face. She cocked her head slightly and looked at them. Everyone has their selfish desires. If you really want the emperor to be displeased with Ling Yan, Then find some problems that he or his subordinates face, enlarge them, and present them to the emperor. If you do this a few times, it might not be effective. But after many times, Yi Qingtang did not complete her sentence. Everyone present was intelligent. They all knew what Yi Qingtang was implying. If we really can't find anything? The second princess asked again. If you are determined to condemn someone, a charge can always be found, Yi Qingtang said with a soft laugh. At that, the second princess and the eldest prince exchanged looks. Considering their power, it would be easy for them to trump up a charge. Thank you, Elder Yi, for your guidance. We will go and make preparations. The eldest prince cupped his fists in thanks. The second princess also understood. She said farewell, and hurried off to make her preparations. Yi Qingtang's emotions were in turmoil as she watched the three siblings hurry off to execute plans to harm Ling Yan. When everyone left, Lady Ghost rose and said to Yi Qingtang, "The Holy Lord is truly wiser than everyone else. Just a suggestion of two." And they understood the crux of the matter. The eldest prince and the others had always been struggling to get rid of Ling Yan, but had forgotten that the eternal emperor was crucial to Ling Yan's status. She did not wish to point it out either. Yi Qingtang felt very depressed, but she needed to maintain her aloofness. Let's see if they manage to pull it off. Lady Ghost laughed softly. It is not important whether they can pull it off. As long as the Holy Lord is here, the eldest prince will certainly become the crown prince. Yi Qingtang did not say anything. She only glanced calmly at Lady Ghost, then rose, and went back to her room. Truly, women are the evilest, the little white tiger muttered at Yi Qingtang's back as it followed her back to her room. Those princes and princesses had been in a mess, but Yi Qingtang had enlightened them. She truly had not pulled her punches in dealing with Ling Yan. Yi Qingtang turned and glared at it. What was she supposed to do? There had clearly been an element of testing when Lady Ghost had thrown her the question. With the Holy Lord of Shadow's intelligence, surely she could not suggest some scheme that could easily be seen through? If Yi Qingtang had made a perfunctory suggestion of what to do, then Lady Ghost would immediately become strongly suspicious of her identity. Then she would certainly die, regardless of whether Ling Yan survived. Tell me, how do you think Ling Yan will react if he knew that you were doing your utmost to help others kill him? The little white tiger waved its tail as it gloated. Yi Qingtang simply kicked its furry butt and took out the voice transmission stone. Chapter 1305, Giving Advice 1. Ling Yan, I have something to tell you. Do you miss me, Missy? Ling Yan's voice had a hint of amusement. If he were standing in front of Yi Qingtang, she would kick him without a second word. Why can't he be serious? Don't be cheeky. I'm here today to inform you that your elder siblings have begun to fabricate charges against you. Of course, Yi Qingtang would not really harm Ling Yan. She had been forced to act as she did just now. In any case, she could tell Ling Yan about what happened, so she did not need to feel too guilty. Considering their intelligence, they probably couldn't figure out such an essential point. Miss Yi must have given them some pointers, Ling Yan said with a laugh. Yi Qingtang was silent. It's true that I advised them. However, didn't I inform you immediately? Soft laughter rang out from the voice transmission stone. Miss Yi, I don't blame you at all. In fact, I approve of what you've done. Right now, you are the Holy Lord of the Temple of Shadows, and the Temple of Shadows suspects you. Of course, you need to consider everything in the light of your status as the Holy Lord of Shadows. You must not give the game away. The Temple of Shadows is supporting my royal elder brother. It is natural that you plot against me, Ling Yan said with a laugh. There was no hint of blame in his voice. Yi Qingtang had also thought so, which was why she acted as she did. But for some reason, when she heard Ling Yan being so considerate of her, a hint of guilt rose in her heart. Ling Yan had helped her a lot, but she was harming him. She really felt guilty. Miss Yi, you don't need to worry about this. In the future, you can do your best to advise my elder siblings. Otherwise, with their intelligence, things will be very boring. Ling Yan spoke suddenly as if he guessed Yi Qingtang's thoughts. Was he allowing her to do her best to help his siblings deal with him? Yi Qingtang was thoroughly shocked by Ling Yan's eccentric thinking. However, How disdainful was he of the brains of the eldest prince and the others? All right. In any case, I've informed you. Don't blame me if you make things difficult for yourself, Yi Qingtang said. She was about to switch off the voice transmission stone. But the moment before she switched it off, Ling Yan suddenly spoke. Miss Yi. What? Yi Qingtang pursed her lips. Have you noticed? Noticed what? Yi Qingtang asked curiously. You are getting more and more concerned about my affairs. Ling Yan's laughter passed through the voice transmission stone and filled Yi Qingtang's ear. Yi Qingtang was slightly taken aback. Dream on. Who has time to bother with your affairs? Of course. I am not as beautiful as Miss Yi. Yi Qingtang switched off the voice transmission stone. If she continued to quibble with him, she would really switch sides and help the eldest prince. She had never met anyone so shameless. The eldest prince and the others worked fast. Within half a day, they had gathered some clues, and by evening, the eldest prince, second princess, and eldest princess met at the residence for a discussion. They also invited Yi Qingtang and the others, who had advised them. Elder Yi, this is what we have gathered about the background of the people nearest to our third royal brother. As he spoke, the eldest prince placed a pile of dossiers in front of Yi Qingtang. This elder Yi was usually quiet, but today she had enlightened them with a single remark, such that they saw the key to getting rid of Ling Yan. Chapter 1306, Giving Advice 2. Yi Qingtang inwardly rolled her eyes when she saw the dossiers piled up in front of her. She was forced to do her best to kill Ling Yan. However, Lady Ghost and Ming Gu were standing behind her. Even if Yi Qingtang wanted to wash her hands of this matter, it would be impossible. Helpless, Yi Qingtang had no choice but to read through the dossiers and gain a vague understanding of the powers around Ling Yan. From the information in these dossiers, she gathered that Ling Yan was truly intelligent. Not only was he above reproach, but even his trusted followers were exacting and meticulous in their work. Disaster relief. Yi Qingtang saw a record in the dossiers that 2 years ago, one of the borders in the Eternal Dynasty had been stricken by a natural disaster. Ling Yan was ordered to bring money and resources to the area to conduct disaster relief. With that, Yi Qingtang immediately looked up and glanced at the eldest prince and the others. Immediately send men there tonight. What for? Second princess asked with a slight frown. The place that Yi Qingtang was pointing to was a city on the borders of the Eternal Dynasty, miles away from the capital. 2 years ago, there was a natural disaster there. Our royal father ordered third royal brother to go there to relieve the people in the stricken areas. But he's always conscientious and doesn't make any mistakes. Elder Yi, what is your intention? The eldest prince vaguely guessed at Yi Qingtang's intention, but felt that something was amiss. Who knows whether he was conscientious or not? Yi Qingtang raised her brows slightly. The eldest prince was slightly taken aback. Does Elder Yi mean that we should send men to find some people to incriminate Ling Yan? Yi Qingtang nodded slightly. Then, she raised her hand and pointed out a few places on the map of the Eternal Dynasty. These places were all far-flung, but all of them had some connection to Ling Yan. Send men to all these places too. As long as you can get some people to change their testimony, nothing is impossible, Yi Qingtang said as she looked at them. With the eldest prince and the second princess influence, it would be an easy matter to buy off some citizens. It would be even easier to get some officials in these cities to alter their testimony. All these were Ling Yan's past achievements. If properly used, they could also be the source of his defeat. When Yi Qingtang finished speaking, she did not hesitate and pointed out a few names in the dossiers. Get some men to look for these people. The eldest prince looked and saw that the people Yi Qingtang had pointed out were all trusted and longtime followers of Ling Yan. Also, they were all upright and respectable people. Elder Yi, what is your intention? Was Elder Yi planning to bring these unyielding persons over to their side? We have interacted with these people before and tried to get them to betray Ling Yan, but they were unwilling, and their characters. Yi Qingtang was not interested in the eldest prince's meandering discourse. She simply waved her hand and interrupted him. I told you to look for them, not to solicit them. I want them to hit the men you send. What? The eldest prince felt completely out of his depth. Yi Qingtang looked at the puzzled expressions of the eldest prince and the others and felt that Ling Yan was right to disdain their intelligence. The eldest prince was not stupid, but rather intelligent. It was just that his intelligence paled before Ling Yan. But Lady Ghost understood Yi Qingtang's meaning. She said with a smile, "Eldest prince, you misunderstand Elder Ye's intentions. As you say, the men chosen by Elder Yi are all men of integrity. But men like that are especially easy to trap." Chapter 1307, Giving Advice 3, Lady Ghost paused, then continued. If you can find suitable men to trap them into fighting, then you can turn the situation around and say that Ling Yan's subordinates took advantage of their position to bully others. This will also implicate Ling Yan. Ling Yan has only just been made crown prince, but his trusted subordinates have begun throwing their weight around and acting wickedly. If news of this reaches the emperor's ears, I'm afraid that the emperor will doubt Ling Yan's worth. Lady Ghost's speech allowed the eldest prince and the others to understand Yi Qingtang's intentions. When they had first received these dossiers, they had fretted over fabricating charges against Ling Yan. Who would have expected that Elder Yi could checkmate Ling Yan with a few simple words? It did not matter whether Ling Yan or his subordinates had really done anything wrong. A single consultation with you is more profitable than 10 years of study. Elder Yi, I greatly admire your wisdom. The eldest prince made a slight obeisance to Yi Qingtang with heartfelt admiration. But the second prince's expression grew odd. This Elder Yi's intelligence was truly formidable. At the moment, she was a great help in dealing with Ling Yan. However, once Ling Yan was removed, her alliance with the eldest prince would dissolve. Then this formidable person would be her enemy. At that moment, the second princess' emotions were in turmoil. She was both glad and worried. As Yi Qingtang looked at the admiration on the faces of the eldest prince and the others, she felt no inward joy. Ling Yan had allowed her to do her best to advise them. If he could not avoid the trap, then it really was not her fault. The eldest prince and the other two truly wanted to kill Ling Yan. The moment they understood Yi Qingtang's plan, they began their preparations. They clearly wished to get rid of Ling Yan before he consolidated his power. They ordered men to ride swiftly through the night to the border cities. They also began to choose suitable men to deliberately provoke the loyal followers of Ling Yan that Yi Qingtang had highlighted. Yi Qingtang intended to tell Ling Yan about all these plans, but there was no sound from the voice transmission stone. She did not know if Ling Yan had left it in his room. Mo was Ling Yan's personal bodyguard, and also Mo Yongshan's cousin. He was fairly talented and an upright man. Because he had grown up together with Mo Yunxian, the two of them were on good terms. Mo doted on Mo Yunxian, as if she were his own sister. "Siener, bear with it. Injuries like yours will not heal so soon, so you should stay at home." That day, Mo had heard that Mo Yunxian had been injured by the holy son of the Temple of Shadows during the banquet in the palace, and had hurried over. However, the moment he arrived, Mo Yunxian begged him to bring her to see Ling Yan. "Cousin, did elder brother Yin really not give you a message for me?" Mo Yunxian had been severely injured by Minggu. If she had not been carrying her master's Dharma treasure, she would have died. Even so, Mo Yongshan's thoughts were with Ling Yan after resting for a few days. She had finally returned to the capital, but had sustained such severe injuries. Ever since that night, elder brother Yan had not been to see her even once. Mo looked at his adored cousin, his emotions in turmoil. For the past few days, Ling Yan had not mentioned Mo Yunxian at all. But when he looked at the misery and hope written on Mo Yongshan's little face, Mo could not bear to tell her the truth. He was afraid that the truth would wound Mo Yunxian deeply. Chapter 1308, Deliberate Provocation 1. Of course, the Crown Prince asked me to pass you a message. He knows that your injuries are serious, so he asked you to stay in your residence to recuperate. He will come and visit you when you are better. You must be aware that the Crown Prince just ascended to his position and has many matters to deal with. It's natural that he is too busy to visit you right now. Mo Yunxian beamed the moment she heard this. I knew it. Elder brother Yin would never stop loving me. Cousin, my injuries are much better. Can you bring me to the Crown Prince's residence? I haven't seen elder brother Yin for many days. This. Mo Yu wanted to turn her down, but he could not harden his heart against the sight of Mo Yongshan's pale little face. All right, I'll bring you to see the Crown Prince. But you must behave yourself, and not make a fuss. I heard all about what happened at the banquet. How could you be so rash as to offend an elder from the Temple of Shadows? If not for the Crown Prince's sake, His Majesty would not have let you off so easily. When Mo Yunxian heard that, Yi Qingtang's beautiful face involuntarily surfaced in her mind's eye, and her expression hardened. How was I to know she's an elder of the Temple of Shadows? Just that face alone would make one think she is some vixen from who knows where. Mo Yu sighed softly. He knew that Mo Yunxian had an almost warped possessiveness of Ling Yan. She would not allow any pretty girl to appear around Ling Yan. Perhaps His Majesty did not punish you any further, because the Crown Prince pleaded for you. You must be more careful in the future. A sweet smile surfaced on Mo Yongshan's face the moment she heard that Ling Yan had pleaded for her. Elder brother Yin really cares for me. Mo Yu did not speak anymore, and ordered men to prepare the sedan. When Mo Yunxian was seated in the sedan, he brought her to the Crown Prince's residence. Along the way, Mo Yunxian touched up her makeup in the sedan. Her one wish was to appear beautiful for Ling Yan. But before long, the sedan suddenly stopped. The shrill whinnying of a horse could be heard from outside the sedan, followed by someone wailing. What's going on? Mo Yunxian was anxious to see Ling Yan, and impatiently stuck her head out. She suddenly saw a youth, who had fallen to the ground in front of them. Mo Yunxian was sitting astride his tall horse, frowning. Cousin, why have we stopped? Mo Yunxian asked crossly. Mo Yu looked gloomy. He had been riding along when he suddenly saw a black figure dart out from the nearby crowd. The man had rushed straight into the path of his horse, and Mo Yu had not been able to stop in time. His horse's hooves had crashed straight into the person. Go and see how he is, Mo Yu said to a nearby guard. But before the guard could go forward to make his inquiries, the youth who had fallen to the ground suddenly vomited blood, and his body convulsed violently. Just as the guard reached the youth's side, the latter suddenly collapsed and stopped breathing. Lord Mo, the man is dead. The guard checked his breathing. Dead? Mo Yu was slightly taken aback. He would never have imagined that this person would suddenly die. In the sedan, Mo Yongshan's only thought was to see Ling Yan as soon as possible. But now, she had run into such an unfortunate incident. So what if he's dead? Never mind if he wanted to die. Why should he bring such bad luck on others? Hurry up and drag him to the side so that he doesn't block my way. Chapter 1309. Deliberate Provocation, 2. Mo Yunxian had been indulged from young, and was born to a martial family. She was used to seeing dead people. Siener, wait a moment. This incident must be. Mo Yu wanted to say that it was just an inconvenience. But the sounds of wailing suddenly rang out. He saw two white-haired old people squeezing their way through the crowd, to fling themselves on the dead youth's body. Foor, what happened to you? Wake up. Don't scare your father. Foor, my Foor. These two old people burst into tears as they looked at their grandson, who had stopped breathing. Their voices were mournful and heartrending. It's all your fault. You killed my grandson. Give my grandson back to me. The weeping old woman looked with bloodshot eyes at Mo Yu, who was astride his tall horse. She reached out to claw at him. Under the circumstances, Mo Yu did not dare to retaliate. He had no choice but to dismount and try to calm the old people down. He himself was still in a daze. Even though the young man had suddenly rushed out, his horse had not been moving too fast, and the youth should not have died. Old lady, please listen to me. This matter. Mo Yu reached out to support the old woman who had tottered forward to make a scene. But the moment his hand brushed against the old woman's arm, the old woman's eyes bulged slightly, and fresh blood spurted from her mouth, spraying Mo Yu's face. There was a loud crash. The old lady toppled to the ground dead. Mo Yu stared in disbelief at the old woman, who had collapsed before his eyes. What is going on? Old lady, what's the matter? The old man who was left looked at his elderly wife lying in a pool of blood. Grief welled up within him as he lifted a shaking hand and pointed at Mou. You're so vicious. It's not enough that you killed my grandson, but you won't even let my old lady off. I'll kill you. Calm down, old man. Things are not what you imagine them to be. I didn't do anything just now. Mou was frightened by the situation. 2 people had died before his eyes in an instant, and both deaths were related to him. He was completely befuddled. The citizens on the street could not help but stare as they saw all this unfold. Mou was a well-known figure in the capital, and many people knew who he was. At that moment the crowd was abuzz. At that moment, Mou was really hard-pressed to defend himself. The old man raised his walking stick and rushed towards him. The walking stick was about to smash into him when a black leather whip suddenly snaked out from the sedan behind him. What's the fuss about? What do your grandsons and your wife's deaths have to do with my cousin? I think you're looking for trouble. Who are you that you dare to hit my cousin? Mo Yunxian wielded the leather whip with one hand to restrain the old man by his wrist. Her eyes were filled with impatience. Xianer, stop. Mou was shocked to see that Mo Yunxian had acted. Mo Yunxian frowned slightly, then impatiently flicked the whip aside. She had not used much force, but when she withdrew the whip, the old man was flung in the direction of a nearby stall. The stall was instantly smashed with a loud crash. The old man collapsed amongst the debris, spitting copious amounts of blood. His body quivered. Then he died. 3 lives were gone in an instant. Chapter 1310. Deliberate Provocation 3. Mo Yunxian could not help but be startled. Xianer, what are you doing? Mou was utterly shocked. He knew that Mo Yunxian was anxious to see Ling Yan, and that she was rather heedless, but how could she kill someone publicly? Mo Yunxian looked at the leather whip in her hand before she snapped out of her trance. She had not really exerted any force just now, yet why had the old man died just like that? What does it have to do with me? I wasn't the one who killed him. I didn't use any force at all. Perhaps he is pretending to be dead. I just flicked the whip lightly. How could he have died? Mo Yunxian's face was filled with impatience. Combined with the fact that her injuries were beginning to ache and itch, she did not wish to linger here any longer. Also, she truly had not intended to kill the old man. She just wanted to scare him. Who knew why he had mysteriously died? The surrounding citizens were abuzz when they saw that 3 people had died before their eyes, and that Mo Yunxian was acting arrogantly. These citizens held General Mo in high regard. He had achieved much glory on the battlefield, and to the citizens of the Eternal Dynasty, he was a great hero. But many of the Eternal Dynasty citizens secretly shook their heads at his only daughter. Although Mo Yunxian was seldom in the capital, her reputation for being coquettish and willful was widely known among the people. Now many people felt that they had seen Mo Yunxian's true colors. 3 people had died just like that, and Mo Yunxian had personally killed one of them. So many eyes had witnessed it, but she made various excuses and continued to quibble. Mou vaguely sensed that something was amiss, but before he could recover his wits, a troop of soldiers suddenly emerged from the noisy crowd. What's going on here? The officer in the lead frowned as he looked at the 3 bodies lying on the ground. Mou was just about to reply, but Mo Yunxian's patience completely evaporated. You're just in time. I don't know where these 3 unruly citizens came from, but they ran in front of us to make trouble, and now they are playing dead to malign us. You must capture them quickly, Mo Yunxian said when she saw the soldiers. She might not know what else was going on, but she was completely clear about how much force she had used. That slight amount of force was not sufficient to kill. These 3 must be feigning dead to malign them. The soldiers naturally recognized Mo Yunxian as a noble young lady. Then, they saw that the other person was the crown prince's personal bodyguard, Mou. They were somewhat suspicious, but still went forward to inspect the 3 bodies. Reporting to my lord, the 3 people are really dead, a soldier said after a check. Mo Yunxian was stunned by these words. Did you check carefully? They must be using some sort of method to play dead. Mo Yunxian frowned. Although Mou's subordinate had said that the 3 people were dead, she had seen many ways of feigning death in her years cultivating abroad, so she continued to believe that the 3 were pretending to be dead. Miss Mo, the three of them are really dead, the officer in the lead said. Nonsense. Mo Yinxian did not believe him at all. She went forward to look at the old man lying in the debris. Her eyes narrowed. I don't believe you can continue with your act. As she spoke, Mo Yinxian raised her hand and used her whip to strike at the old man's body. Mo Yunxian's move startled the surrounding people. Even Mo Yu had not expected Mo Yunxian to be so reckless. This time, Mo Yunxian used her full strength. Even if this person was pretending to be dead, the force of this blow would cause so much pain that he would be unable to maintain his act. Chapter 13:11. Everything is ready 1. A crisp cracking noise pierced everyone's eardrums. The whip tore a bone-deep wound in the chest of the old man, who had collapsed on the ground. Their scalps crawled as they saw the flesh curl open, but he continued to lie there motionlessly, without any reaction. Mo Yunxian was completely stunned. What was going on? Xiener, stop that. Mo Yu hurried over and grabbed the leather whip that Mo Yunxian was holding. Cousin he. Mo Yunxian was momentarily flustered. Miss Mo, Lord Mo, we will have to trouble you to come back with us to deal with today's incident. The officer in the lead could not bear to go on watching. How could this Miss Mo be so cruel as to whip a person's body after he died? Why should I go with you? Mo Yunxian's expression immediately changed. She had not expected the old man to really be dead. The lead officer was unwilling to continue arguing. He just ordered his men to bring Mo Yunxian and Mo Yu along. Mo Yunxian wanted to resist, but Mo Yu told her to act more prudently. When he saw the group of soldiers take Mo Yunxian and Mo Yu away, the eldest prince, who was sitting in an elegant restaurant nearby, smiled. Elder Yi, based on your plan, Ling Yan still has a few other trusted subordinates besides Mo Yu and Mo Yunxian. We have also planned for them to commit crimes. Do you think our arrangements are all right? The eldest prince raised his eyes slightly and looked at Yi Qingtang, who was standing nearby. Everything that had happened today was arranged by him, in accordance with Yi Qingtang's instructions. Yi Qingtang maintained her slight casual smile as she saw the disappearing figures of Mo Yu and Mo Yunxian, who were being taken away. The bait was not bad. Yi Qingtang's gaze fell on the three people, lying dead on the ground. She sighed inwardly, but did not allow her expression to change. She knew very well why Mo Yunxian had reacted like that. After all, in her place, she also would not believe that someone would suddenly give up their life to frame her. So Mo Yunxian's thinking was correct. It was just that the eldest prince's arrangements had evidently taken everything into account. The eldest prince smiled and said, Since we want to bring Ling Yan down, our plan must be flawless. My third royal brother is so intelligent. If I found someone to feign dead, he would quickly find a plot hole. And if it's just an argument or a fight, it will be hard to blow the matter up. The only way is to cause my third royal brother's loyal subordinates to publicly kill ordinary citizens, to incur the wrath of the capital's citizens. Only then will my royal father give weight to this matter. The eldest prince watched the three bodies being carried away as he spoke. His expression showed no sign of pity. These grandparents and their grandson were border refugees. They've been in the capital for half a year. If not for my kindness, they would have died long ago. Since I have need of them today, they naturally tried to do their best for me. The eldest prince spoke casually. Yi Qingtang's face remained expressionless, but she laughed coldly in her heart. She believed in the eldest prince's viciousness, but not in his kindness. The eldest prince must have some hold over this trio, and they were forced to give up their lives here. Yi Qingtang had heard of the viciousness of the Eternal Dynasty's eldest prince in her previous life. Now that she had met him, she realized he was even crueler than he was rumored to be. The tasks that Elder Yi handed to us are almost complete. We only need to wait for the men from the border to reach the capital before embarking on our plan, the eldest prince said with a smile. If we can bring Ling Yan down this time, it will really be thanks to Elder Yi's advice. Chapter 13:12. Everything is ready, too. Yi Qingtang swept a bland look at the eldest prince, but did not say anything. Ling Yan, you better be careful. The recent ascension of the Eternal Dynasty's crown prince should have been a joyous occasion, but many calls for impeachment now arose in the Eternal Dynasty's court. According to the Eternal Dynasty's custom, a morning court session was held every day, and all the princes and princesses had to attend, even those who had not been crowned. The Eternal Emperor was presiding over the court when a minister suddenly stepped forward and kneeled to present a memorial. "Your Majesty, I have a memorial to present." "What is it?" asked the Eternal Emperor. "Your Majesty, I wish to impeach the Crown Prince Ling Yen for allowing his subordinates to wreak havoc among the citizens," the minister said loudly. The Eternal Emperor had just made Ling Yen the Crown Prince, but within a few days, someone dared to call for an impeachment. Many ministers in the court were shocked. Everyone's eyes involuntarily turned to Ling Yen, who was standing at one side of the Great Hall. Ling Yen did not seem to hear that someone was calling for his impeachment. He only remained in his spot, with a remote expression on his face. His eyelids did not even flicker. The eldest prince, who was standing opposite Ling Yen, secretly exchanged glances with the second princess, who was behind the latter. When his gaze passed over Ling Yen, a trace of amusement flashed across his eyes. With that, he subtly nodded at a scrawny man, who was dressed as a civil servant and standing at the side of the Great Hall. This civil servant was originally one of the eldest prince's trusted subordinates, but today, he had been replaced. Today, Yi Qingtang was standing there, looking like an ordinary person. Early that morning, the eldest prince and the second princess had prepared everything and were ready to make their move in the morning court session. In order to ensure that everything went smoothly, the eldest princess had especially requested Yi Qingtang to disguise herself as a civil servant and sneak into the morning court session. Yi Qingtang looked at the eldest prince's expression and sighed inwardly. What was meant to be would always be. She subconsciously lifted her gaze and glanced at Ling Yan's back. Her emotions were rather tangled. The Eternal Emperor's expression stiffened. "You want to impeach the Crown Prince?" "Yes. What has the Crown Prince done wrong that you wish to impeach him?" The Eternal Emperor frowned slightly, and a hint of his displeasure showed. The minister steeled himself and said, "The Crown Prince Ling Yen has conducted himself poorly, allowing his subordinates to deceive the emperor. His wrongs are innumerable. How dare you?" The Eternal Emperor suddenly smacked the throne heavily. "Do you know what the penalty is for maligning the Crown Prince?" The minister kowtowed deeply and said solemnly, "I know that the penalty for maligning the Crown Prince is death. But as a minister, I cannot ignore his crimes. Today, I make the risky move of impeaching the Crown Prince for the sake of the safety and security of my eternal dynasty. Your Majesty, please hear me out. After that, I will gladly accept any consequences that your Majesty metes out." The Eternal Emperor narrowed his eyes slightly and took a deep breath. He looked deeply displeased. The eldest prince, who was standing nearby, saw this, and a hint of amusement arose in his heart. But his expression was worried when he advanced and said, "Father, the Crown Prince has always been honest and kind. He could not possibly have done anything treasonous." With that, the eldest prince turned to the minister who was kneeling on the floor. "Lord Hu, is there some misunderstanding on your part?" "There is no misunderstanding on my part," Lord Hu said with a straight face. At that moment the second princess said, "Lord Hu has always been upright and principled. He is both honest and fair. You must have discovered something for him to risk his life today to ask for an impeachment. I also do not believe that the Crown Prince is corrupt. But since Lord Hu has spoken up, Royal Father, why don't you allow Lord Hu to explain himself, so that the Crown Prince can clear his name?" Chapter 13:13. Everything is ready 3. The eldest prince and the second princess worked together seamlessly, so that although they seemed to be speaking up for Ling Yen, they hinted that the Eternal Emperor should finish listening to Lord Hu. The Eternal Emperor's expression grew sterner. He finally spoke in front of the full court of civil and military officials. "If you dare to malign the Crown Prince today, I will make sure you are quartered." The Eternal Emperor's eyes were sharp. His words clearly showed that he was protecting Ling Yen. "I hear and obey," Lord Hu replied. Then he continued, "I wish to impeach the Crown Prince on 2 major counts. Firstly, The crown prince condoned his subordinates when they broke the law and committed crimes in the capital. They have harmed people and caused good and loyal citizens to suffer. As he spoke, Lord Hu presented the memorial he had prepared earlier to the Eternal Emperor. The Eternal Emperor glanced at it, and his expression suddenly grew stern. The crown prince's adherents, Mou, Wu Liang, Chang Kai, and others have abused their position in the capital and killed the citizens of our dynasty. Lord Hu carefully read out the numerous crimes on the memorial to the entire court of civil and military officials. Everyone knew that all those mentioned by Lord Hu were Ling Yan's trusted subordinates. All the crimes were clearly detailed, and many of them were committed after Ling Yan had become the crown prince. Many of the officials in the capital had heard of these incidents in the past few days. All the officials were instantly abuzz. Ling Yan's reputation within the court was fairly good, and many ministers thought well of him. Ling Yan had always performed his duties flawlessly in the past, and gave the ministers no occasion to be displeased with him. However, after Ling Yan became the crown prince, many of his trusted subordinates had caused trouble, and most of these incidents had cost lives. The Eternal Emperor's expression grew stern. The memorial was presented together with a record from the Board of Punishments, which clearly recorded the details of the crimes that Ling Yan's subordinates had committed. "Where is the Minister of Punishments?" the Eternal Emperor asked coldly. The Minister of Punishments immediately advanced. "Here I am." The Eternal Emperor asked coldly. "Where are Wu Liang and the others?" The Minister of Punishments grew pale and fell to his knees. "Your Majesty, Wu Liang and the others have already left the Board of Punishments." "How dare you? Who ordered you to release them?" the Eternal Emperor shouted. He flung the record straight at the minister's face. "I deserve to die. I deserve to die. I had them locked up, but General Mo's daughter, Mo Yunxian, said they were all the crown prince's people and asked me to release them." The Minister of Punishments was ashen. In reality, Wu Liang and the others were Ling Yan's trusted bodyguards and were close to Mou. Because of that, they extended their friendship to Mou's loved ones, and were somewhat familiar with Mo Yunxian. Also, Mo Yunxian was now Ling Yan's fiancée. Wu Liang and the others naturally treated her as the future crown princess, and were very respectful towards her. When Mo Yunxian and Mou were locked up in the Board of Punishments, they saw Wu Liang and the others. Mo Yunxian was a pampered young lady, and could not stand a place like the Board of Punishments. She naturally used her position as the future crown princess, and her status as General Mo's daughter, to order the Board of Punishments to release them all. It was actually a small matter, and to Mo Yunxian, those who died were unimportant as they were only ordinary citizens. The Board of Punishments naturally did not dare to make things too difficult for her. After all, they knew that the Eternal Emperor favored the crown prince, Ling Yan, and Mo Yunxian's father was also one of the Eternal Emperor's trusted subordinates and wielded much military power. Thus, they had no choice but to let them go. Chapter 13-14 Impeachment. One such incidents were actually of no great importance, but no one expected Lord Hu to present it as a memorial to His Majesty during a court session. Now there was no way to resolve the matter. Yi Qingtang was standing on the sidelines, and her lips twitched involuntarily as she watched the scene unfold. What kind of fiancé had the Eternal Emperor selected for Ling Yan? What she had done, based on the plan, locking Mo Yunxian and the others up in the Board of Punishments, would show that Ling Yan was guilty of mismanaging his subordinates. He would at most be accused of indulging his subordinates and allowing them to behave willfully. But Mo Yunxian had meddled and gotten them released. Now it was even better. Now Ling Yan would probably be accused of corruption, contempt of imperial authority, abuse of power, and colluding with his adherents. As the crown prince's fiancée, she was so proud that she dared to throw her weight around in the Board of Punishments and meddle with their affairs. Yi Qingtang felt that Mo Yunxian had really brought misfortune to Ling Yan. She did not love him. She clearly was against him. For a moment, Yi Qingtang silently mourned for Ling Yan in her heart. Sure enough, the Eternal Emperor's expression immediately darkened. In the end, the crown prince was only the crown prince. If he overstepped his boundaries, he would be seeking his own death. No monarch would allow his own children to interfere with the workings of the government. Send men to immediately bring them before me, the Eternal Emperor said coldly. With that, a troop of guards left the palace to arrest Mou and the others. What else do you have to report? The Eternal Emperor looked at Lord Hu again. Lord Hu continued, I also want to impeach the crown prince on grounds of falsifying his achievements, deceiving the throne, and appropriating the disaster relief funds. Lord Hu threw another bomb. As he spoke, Lord Hu presented another memorial. When Yi Qingtang saw him hand over the memorial, she knew what it contained. She did not need to read it to know that the memorial involved Ling Yan's past disaster relief work at the border. However, the achievements of the past had now been rewritten as an appropriation of funds, indifference to the citizens affected by the natural disaster, and falsifying information to fabricate achievements in order to deceive the emperor. Why did she know all this so well? Because she had dictated it to the eldest prince word for word. One might say that Yi Qingtang had written that memorial. Yi Qingtang could not help but feel guilty. She secretly glanced at Ling Yan, only to see that he did not appear to have heard anything. He was still standing calmly in the court, as if he was not the one being impeached. Was he relaxed? Or prepared? One must know that Yi Qingtang had dealt 2 vicious blows. If Ling Yan had no way to counter them, he might lose his position as a prince, not to mention his position as crown prince. Sure enough, Yi Qingtang's colorful memorial hit the Eternal Emperor in a vital spot. His expression grew extremely grim. Lord Hu was unsparing in his efforts. He recited the contents of the memorial in front of everyone. The court was abuzz. One must know that a few years ago, Ling Yan had won much praise from the ministers for his disaster relief work at the borders. If all this was merely for show, then the praise would instantly be transformed and amplified into abhorrence. Lord Hu, is there any misunderstanding? The crown prince does not seem like an avaricious person. The eldest prince made a show of disbelief. Chapter 13-15 Impeachment 2. But Lord Hu said, Of course, I would not dare to make casual speculations involving the crown prince. When I received the news, I specially sent men to the various regions to investigate. The investigations showed no discrepancies. I also ordered men to bring some of the officials and citizens from these border cities here. If His Majesty does not believe me, he can summon here for questioning. The Eternal Emperor immediately summoned them to the hall for a confrontation. The officials all came from far-flung border cities and had never seen the emperor before. Upon meeting him, they were filled with fear and trembling and fell to their knees in unison. The citizens quivered even more violently and kneeled behind them. Greetings, Your Majesty. Look up. Let me ask you, how did the Crown Prince Ling Yan do when he was in your cities to perform disaster relief? The Eternal Emperor asked sternly. There is no need to hesitate when answering His Majesty. You just need to speak plainly. If you dare to deviate from the truth, you will immediately be dragged out and flogged to death. The second princess said coldly. All of them immediately became so frightened that they shivered all over and stammered. When the third prince was at our borders, he did his very best and did not do anything inappropriate. Yes. The crown prince attended to everything personally and loved his subjects as he would his own children. When the officials from the various cities spoke, they strenuously praised Ling Yan's efforts. The Eternal Emperor calmed down a little, but at that moment, the citizens kneeling behind the city officials suddenly turned pale. They raised their heads and said, Your Majesty, please give us justice. This sudden turn of events startled the ministers, who were beginning to suspect there was some mistake in Lord Hu's investigations. The Eternal Emperor frowned slightly. Your Majesty, when we were at the border, we did not see the Crown Prince at all. The Crown Prince never came to our cities. Also, we never received any disaster relief. Your Majesty, my son and daughter starved to death during the natural disaster. We heard that the court had sent the third prince to perform disaster relief, but we never saw any food, only some moldy rice. Your Majesty, our lives are worthless, We must say that the crown prince has deceived you and everyone else. These citizens publicly exposed the city officials' flagrant cover-up. They shouted themselves hoarse to denounce Ling Yan's lies. This immediately set the court buzzing. When the eldest prince saw the situation unfold before him, a trace of amusement surfaced in his eyes. He discreetly glanced at Yi Qingtang from the corner of his eyes. He had intended for both the officials and citizens to discredit Ling Yan's achievements, but before they left, Yi Qingtang suddenly changed her mind and asked him to change the city officials' statements completely. The eldest prince had been rather worried about whether this was appropriate, but now that he personally saw the effect, the eldest prince was filled with admiration for Yi Qingtang's intelligence. If everyone accused Ling Yan of doing a poor job in disaster relief, others might suspect that Ling Yan was being framed. But now, the city officials' cover-up made it obvious that Ling Yan had secretly bribed them. This made the impoverished citizens' testimony even more believable and further blackened Ling Yan's character. After all, no one would expect ordinary citizens to deliberately malign the crown prince for no reason. This was really a stroke of genius. When the citizens finished speaking, the city officials' expressions stiffened. They shuddered even more violently. Their reactions clearly indicated their guilt, without a need for more questioning. At a glance, it was clear who was telling the truth and who was lying. Chapter 13:16 Impeachment 3. The Eternal Emperor's expression was now very unpleasant. He immediately commanded men to take the city officials away and interrogate them under torture. In a short while, the city officials who could not withstand the torture confessed that they had taken bribes from Ling Yan, which was why they had helped Ling Yan maintain his false front. The Eternal Emperor was enraged the moment this emerged. "Ling Yan, is this your doing?" The Eternal Emperor shouted coldly. He looked at Ling Yan in anger and frustration, but Ling Yan faced the enraged emperor with complete composure. "Royal Father, the crown prince was still young when he went to perform disaster relief. Perhaps he has made mistakes, but Royal Father, please take into account his youth and ignorance at that time, and forgive him this once." The eldest prince suddenly advanced and kneeled before the Eternal Emperor to plead loudly on Ling Yan's behalf. Yi Qingtang secretly smirked when she saw the eldest prince's act of brotherly affection. This eldest prince was pretty smart. On the surface, he was pleading on behalf of Ling Yan, but in reality, he was affirming that Ling Yan was guilty of appropriating the disaster relief funds and deceiving the emperor. This was a great show. One act followed another, each aimed at Ling Yan's life. Yi Qingtang was engrossed in the show when she suddenly noticed that Ling Yan, who was standing in front of her, seemed to accidentally glance at her. Perhaps it was her guilty conscience, but she felt that Ling Yan had discovered that she was present. Surely that was not. Yi Qingtang subconsciously felt the rough skin of her disguise and fingered her wispy beard to reassure herself. But before the Eternal Emperor could speak again, the guards who had left the palace to arrest the others returned. They brought with them Mou, Wu Liang, and the others who had left the Board of Punishments. They had even brought Mo Yunxian, who had yet to recover from her injuries. "Let me go." Mo Yunxian was a little hurt by their grip and frowned unhappily. Mou and the others were brought into the Great Hall. They sensed that something was amiss when the Eternal Emperor's personal bodyguards had arrived at their doorstep to arrest them. Now, they became exceedingly alarmed by the strange atmosphere in the court. Mou wanted to urge Mo Yunxian to speak carefully, but he was being guarded and had no chance to speak. Everyone kneeled in the hall. Mo Yunxian's expression was very ugly. Many of her injuries had worsened after she left the Board of Punishments, and she had remained in her residence for many days to recuperate. As a result, she had not been able to see Ling Yan. Now, she looked pleased to suddenly see Ling Yan in the hall. She did not know what was going on, but she subconsciously turned to Ling Yan and spoke. "Elder brother Yan." Ling Yan's gaze did not move at all. It was as if he had not heard or seen Mo Yunxian. Yi Qingtang could not help but secretly shake her head at this spoiled Miss Mo Yunxian. Must have been spoiled rotten by General Mo. Now that she was in court, she showed no respect for the emperor, calling Ling Yan's name instead. Perhaps Ming's blow had made her stupid? When Yi Qingtang saw that everyone was gathered in the hall, she involuntarily glanced at Ling Yan. He was the one who had permitted her to advise the eldest prince. Now, he would have to rely on himself to extricate himself from this difficulty. Perhaps Yi Qingtang's gaze lingered for too long. Ling Yan calmly turned his head, and his gaze passed over Mou and the others, who were kneeling in the great hall. But when his gaze passed over Yi Qingtang, it seemed to linger for a moment. His expression seemed to hold a discreet smile. Yi Qingtang was speechless. Chapter 13-17 Plead Guilty 1. The Eternal Emperor looked grimly at Mo Yunxian, and the others kneeling before him. Greetings, Emperor. Mou and the others sensed the atmosphere and hurriedly kowtowed. Mo Yunxian saw that Ling Yan did not seem to notice her, but Mou signaled to her secretly, and she obediently bowed to the Emperor. You are really daring to leave the Board of Punishments on your own accord, without my permission. The Eternal Emperor's tone was filled with displeasure. Mou and the others immediately broke into a cold sweat. When he and Mo Yunxian were imprisoned in the Board of Punishments, they had discovered that Wu Liang and the others were also jailed there. They had mostly been arrested within the past couple of days for crimes they had committed. Before Mou could ask them for details, Mo Yunxian used her status and brought them out of the Board of Punishments in a daze. Wu Liang and the others were rather worried at first, but they felt that the incidents were rather strange and wanted to come out early to investigate, so they had left. But after a few days outside, they had yet to discover a single clue. Your Majesty, please have mercy. We know we were in the wrong. When the Eternal Emperor summoned them to the morning court session, they all knew something was terribly wrong. Mo Yunxian, who gave you the authority to leave and bring criminals with you? The Eternal Emperor's gaze suddenly fell on Mo Yunxian. Although Mo Yunxian was the daughter of a general, she did not have such authority. Mo Yunxian turned pale, but she steeled herself and said, Your Majesty, I had my reasons for leaving. What reasons? The incident that happened that day was very strange. I felt that something was amiss, so I left the Board of Punishments to investigate. Mo Yunxian did not feel that there was anything wrong with her way of thinking. She thought it was very strange that those three people had suddenly appeared and then died. So what did you find out? The Eternal Emperor asked as his expression changed. Mo Yunxian opened her mouth, then pouted and shook her head. The Eternal Emperor laughed coldly. Mo Yunxian, you behaved rudely and recklessly at the banquet, but I forgave you for the sake of your father. Yet you have remained recalcitrant. Do you really think you can get away with such lawless behavior? You are not needed to investigate such matters. Do you think that everyone in the Board of Punishments is dead? The Eternal Emperor bellowed as he showed his rage. Mo Yunxian and the others were terrified. The Eternal Emperor could not be bothered with Mo Yunxian and the others. He turned to look at Ling Yan. Ling Yan, you have heard everything said today. What explanation can you give? At that moment, everyone's gaze focused on Ling Yan. Today he had been charged with 2 major crimes. Chapter 13-18 Plead Guilty 2. The eldest prince and Yi Qingtang secretly exchanged glances and waited to see how Ling Yan would redeem himself. Yi Qingtang was aware that of the 2 charges, the one of indulging one's subordinates had been planned more rigorously. The disaster relief matter was just the icing on the cake. She just did not know how Ling Yan would deal with it. Yi Qingtang's gaze involuntarily fell on Ling Yan. Ling Yan maintained his composure although everyone was looking at him. He only raised his eyes slightly to look at the Eternal Emperor. Just as everyone was staring at Ling Yan to see how he would refute the charges, he suddenly spoke. Lord who has asked to impeach me on the grounds of 2 charges. I plead guilty to them both. Ling Yan's words shocked everyone present. What's going on? Ling Yan is pleading guilty just like that? The eldest princess whispered to the eldest prince behind her, her eyes wide in disbelief. Ling Yan did not say a word to refute Lord Hu's 2 charges, but simply admitted that he was guilty. No one present had expected this, much less the eldest princess. Yi Qingtang was also shocked by Ling Yan's words. He is just pleading guilty. You should at least resist a little. A look of shock flashed across the Eternal Emperor's eyes as he looked at Ling Yan, who had pleaded guilty. Ling Yan, are you really pleading guilty? The Eternal Emperor asked somewhat uncertainly. Yes, I am pleading guilty. Ling Yan repeated himself, as if afraid that the others had not heard him. Now the Eternal Emperor really turned ashen. He had been planning to rebuke Ling Yan. If he refuted the charges, the Emperor would naturally get someone to investigate everything carefully. He certainly would not believe Lord Huss' accusations so easily. However, the person being charged did not have any intention of resisting. The Eternal Emperor had just formulated a series of follow-up actions, but now they were rendered useless. Even Lord Hu, who had come forward to accuse Ling Yan, was shocked. Had the almost demonically clever third prince been substituted for someone else? As everyone was exclaiming in surprise, Ling Yan suddenly took a few dossiers from his sleeve and handed them to the Eternal Emperor. Then he flicked his robes and kneeled on one knee. Royal Father, every word that Lord Hu said is the truth. However, Lord Huss' investigations were too superficial. These dossiers clearly record all the funds that were misappropriated in the disaster relief work that I was involved in over the past few years. Ling Yan's words shocked everyone present. Did anyone trip themselves up like that? The Eternal Emperor scowled and flipped through the dossiers. The dossiers clearly recorded every sum that had gone missing, and it was significantly greater than that in Lord Huss' accounts. But as he read further, the Eternal Emperor's expression grew even more shocked. The eldest prince, who was standing nearby, also snapped out of his trance. Although he did not know what was wrong with Ling Yan today, he certainly would not miss this golden opportunity. He would take advantage of Ling Yan's weakness to score a vital hit. The eldest prince advanced. Royal Father, the Crown Prince is young, and perhaps he made a mistake. Please, Royal Father, forgive him. The second princess immediately understood and said, Forgive him? My eldest royal brother is so compassionate. The Crown Prince has appropriated the funds meant to save the lives of our citizens at the border. Do you know that every cent he embezzled represents the life of a citizen stricken by the disaster? Who knows how many citizens have been killed by his greed? How can such a greedy person be our dynasty's crown prince? How can we face our citizens? Chapter 1319 Plead Guilty 3. The eldest prince was just about to open his mouth and continue his duet with the second princess when Ling Yan suddenly spoke. My second royal sister is right. Appropriating the disaster relief funds is unforgivable. I have let my royal father and the people down. The second princess had already formulated a rebuke, but now that Ling Yan had reproached himself, she choked back her words in shock. Her icy facade seemed to crack. What was going on? Was Ling Yan intending to die today? Ling Yan had snatched the words right out of the eldest prince's and second princess' mouths. For a moment they did not know what to do. They could only turn and look at the Eternal Emperor, who was frowning. This Ling Yan had admitted his guilt. Their royal father would at least strip him of his position as crown prince. After the Eternal Emperor finished flipping through all the dossiers, he suddenly took a deep breath. I did not realize I had such wicked people around me. The Eternal Emperor looked extremely grim as his gaze swept across everyone in the court. The eldest prince and second princess were delighted to hear the Eternal Emperor's words. Where is Jiang Shu? The Eternal Emperor barked. The commander of the imperial bodyguards, Jiang Shu, immediately advanced. Here I am. Go! The Eternal Emperor took a deep breath. And bring General Mo's lieutenant generals Meng Yi and the others here. Everyone was stunned by the Eternal Emperor's words. What was going on? Wasn't he interrogating Ling Yan? Why had the Eternal Emperor suddenly ordered the capture of General Mo's lieutenant generals? Everyone was puzzled, but no one dared to ask questions in the presence of the Eternal Emperor, so they had to suppress their curiosity. After a while, Jiang Shu brought Meng Yi and the other lieutenant generals to the hall. Before everyone in the hall could recover their wits, the Eternal Emperor threw the dossiers that Ling Yan had presented earlier at Meng Yi and the others. How dare you? I asked you to accompany the Crown Prince to perform disaster relief, but you dared to appropriate the disaster relief funds. The Eternal Emperor barked coldly as he looked at them. Meng Yi and the others were shocked to see what was recorded in the dossiers before them. "Have mercy, Your Majesty! Have mercy!" At that moment, the eldest prince and the others saw what was written in those dossiers. The eldest prince and the others were shocked by what they saw. The dossiers clearly recorded the details of the disaster relief funds that had been embezzled. Every sum was clearly recorded, but the final sum had not gone to Ling Yan. It had gone to these people, who had been brought to the hall. Everyone was shocked. They did not understand what was going on. When Ling Yan saw that the men had been captured, he said, "Royal Father, when you sent me to the border to perform disaster relief, Meng Yi and the others were sent to accompany me. Along the way, I fell ill and was unable to continue. I had no choice but to order Meng Yi and the others to bring the funds there first. However, they were corrupt and appropriated most of the funds. By the time I found out about it, they had appropriated the funds. The border citizens were in a desperate plight. Since I was there as my royal father's representative, I did not dare to delay the work. Thus, I sold my own property to make up the sum." As Ling Yan spoke, he nodded to an old minister present in the court. The old minister immediately advanced and kneeled before the eternal emperor. Chapter 13:20 Justice Before Family 1. This old minister used to be the eternal emperor's trusted subordinate. He was upright, honest, and absolutely loyal. The eternal emperor trusted him implicitly. The crown prince is speaking the truth. Because of the losses caused by the natural disaster, the situation at the border was desperate. The crown prince sought my help as I was situated near the border, and he asked me to raise funds for him. He later pawned his jewels to repay me. The old minister's words took everyone by surprise. This old minister was staunchly upright and would never curry favor from those in power. In the past, he had even dared to point out the eternal emperor's mistakes. Hence, the eternal emperor trusted him greatly. The eldest prince and second princess had tried to get him over to their side, but were always shown the door. One might say that all the important ministers in the court trusted the old minister's word. As he spoke, the old minister produced the loan receipts that he and Ling Yan had signed that year, and presented them to the eternal emperor. The documents had been imbued with a spell that showed when they were signed. There was no way to tamper with them. The eternal emperor looked through them one by one, and noticed that the time stated in the spell coincided with the disaster a few years ago. The evidence was irrefutable. No one had expected Ling Yan to be prepared with this. That year, there had been nothing unusual about Ling Yan's disaster relief work. The people that the eldest prince had found, and the evidence of embezzlement were all falsified. They had not realized that the embezzlement had really taken place, except that the embezzler was not Ling Yan but Meng Yi and the others. In fact, Ling Yan had pawned his own belongings in order to make up the sum. Many of the ministers in the court had been unhappy over Ling Yan appropriating the disaster relief funds. When they heard this, they now turned their approving looks on Ling Yan. "We never knew that the crown prince had done so much for our country and our people. We admire him deeply." The eternal emperor looked at Ling Yan with a much friendlier gaze. His eyes were filled with concern. "Yener, why didn't you say something when this happened?" Ling Yan replied, "That year, the central dynasty was about to make trouble. General Mo had led troops to guard the border. I was afraid that revealing the matter then would affect the line of defense at the border." The eternal emperor looked pleased. The eldest prince and second princess were bewildered. They had plotted against Ling Yan, but now, they had not only failed unexpectedly, but Ling Yan had used their accusation to consolidate his position. He had even used his own money to make up the disaster relief funds, and had remained quiet about it for many years without seeking any praise. In fact, no one would have known about it if they had not given Ling Yan a good opportunity today. The eldest prince and second princess exchanged glances. Their expressions were a little anxious. "Bring them away and interrogate them under torture." The eternal emperor's expression changed from kindly to chilly as he turned from Ling Yan to look at Meng Yi and the others. They were quickly brought away. Mo Yunxian, who was standing nearby, was stunned. Meng Yi and the others were her father's trusted subordinates. Mo Yinxian had been completely ignorant about the matter of the disaster relief funds. The eldest prince could not help but panic when he saw that Ling Yan had countered his move. But when he saw Mo Yinxian and the others kneeling in the hall, he thought of another plan. So he went forward and said, "The crown prince has worked hard for the people, but is too soft-hearted. This might not be a good thing. Such matters should have been reported to our royal father in the first instance. You should not have hidden the matter on account of your engagement with Mo Yunxian. Meng Yi and the others are General Mo's trusted subordinates. General Mo must be behind the embezzlement." Chapter 13:21 Justice Before Family 2. When the eldest prince saw that the disaster relief trap had failed, he used the statuses of Meng Yi and the others to accuse General Mo. After all, everyone knew about Ling Yan and Mo Yongxian's engagement. When the second princess heard this, she also recovered her wits and said with a smile, "Did the crown prince not expose Meng Yi and the others because of his concerns about the central dynasty, or because they are General Mo's trusted subordinates? No one can say for sure. After all, General Mo is one of the crown prince's staunchest supporters. The crown prince only spoke up after the disaster relief matter was exposed. I wonder if he did so to protect himself." Yi Qingtang sighed softly as she heard the siblings work together seamlessly. These two were not utterly stupid. They knew how to capitalize on the relationship between Ling Yan and the Mo family. But she was rather curious as to what Ling Yan would say this time. "What my second royal sister says makes sense. For some time now, General Mo has grown arrogant with his achievements. Even his daughter, Mo Yunxian, dared to make a scene in the Board of Punishments. She has no regard for heaven or the throne. I suppose General Mo also has his ambitions? Since the crown prince discovered this earlier, why didn't he speak up?" The eldest princess also chipped in. When Mo Yunxian saw her father being maligned, she said, "Don't you malign my father and elder brother Yan. My father has always been loyal and has never disobeyed his majesty. What Meng Yi and the others did has nothing to do with my father." "Elder brother Yan, speak. Hasn't my father always acted appropriately towards his majesty?" Mo Yunxian asked Ling Yan urgently. Ling Yan did not look at Mo Yunxian, but looked directly at the Eternal Emperor and said, "Royal father, I am guilty." The Eternal Emperor frowned slightly. He did not know why Ling Yan said he was guilty. Ling Yan continued, "I discovered General Mo's disloyalty long ago, but I did not speak because I had yet to gather sufficient evidence. Fortunately, I gathered sufficient evidence a few days ago, and I will now show it to my royal father." As he spoke, Ling Yan took a few memorials from his space ring and presented them to the Eternal Emperor. These memorials clearly recorded all the crimes that General Mo had committed. "I am engaged to the Mo family, but I have never forgotten my own position," Ling Yan said. The entire court exploded into whispers. For the past few years, General Mo's behavior had become increasingly out of hand as his achievements on the battlefield grew. Many of the officials in the court were unhappy with this, but they did not dare to speak out because of the engagement between the Mo family and Ling Yan, and because of General Mo's influence. Everyone knew about the engagement between the Mo family and Ling Yan. One might say that the Mo family was Ling Yan's greatest source of support. No one expected Ling Yan to have the courage to put justice before family and accuse the Mo family himself. Mo Yunxian's eyes widened as she stared at Ling Yan in disbelief. She would never have dreamed that Ling Yan would accuse her family. "Elder brother Yan, what are you doing?" Mo Yunxian panicked. Mo Yu and the others who were nearby also looked incredulous. They were Ling Yan's trusted subordinates, but had not known that Ling Yan was investigating the Mo family. When Yi Qingtang saw Ling Yan's act of putting justice before family, she almost wanted to applaud him. Yi Qingtang now understood why Ling Yan was not concerned about the trap that the eldest prince and second princess had set for him. Chapter 13:22 Justice Before Family 3. Even 10 eldest princes were no match for Ling Yan. Ling Yan was probably all prepared, and had clearly expected everything that happened today. It must be admitted that Yi Qingtang wanted to laugh when she saw Mo Yongxian's crushed look. No one had expected Ling Yan to accuse General Mo. Even Mou and the others were implicated, because they were close to Mo Yunxian. Wu Yang and the others were Ling Yan's trusted subordinates. But because of their connection with Mou and the Mo family, they were close to the Mo family, and now, they were unable to extricate themselves. Also, Mo Yunxian had led them away after they had committed the crimes. From start to finish, Ling Yan had not involved himself in the matter. This deepened the impression that they had transferred their loyalties to the Mo family, and that the trouble they had caused had nothing to do with Ling Yan. Instead, it cast the spotlight on Mo Yunxian's presumptuousness, and the Mo family's arrogance in its achievements. Imprison Mo Yunxian and the others. The Eternal Emperor took a deep breath, and resolutely issued the command. He also sent men with troops to arrest General Mo, who had just returned to the capital. Elder Brother Yan. Elder Brother Yan. Mo Yunxian frantically sought Ling Yan's help before she was dragged away, her beautiful little face filled with terror. But Ling Yan had not even glanced at her throughout this incident. Mo Yunxian had not imagined that Ling Yan would treat her so viciously. When Mo Yunxian and the others had been taken away and imprisoned, Ling Yan said, "Royal Father, I am guilty. Although I did not participate in the Mo family's matters, Mo Yunxian and I are engaged." Before Ling Yan could finish speaking, the Eternal Emperor waved his arm. "This engagement is my fault. I made the engagement for you years ago, but did not expect the Mo family to harbor such wicked ambitions. I have picked the right person. You have taken on everything by yourself, and have given priority to national matters without showing any bias. You have done very well in this matter. Your engagement with Mo Yunxian is dissolved. In the future, the two of you have no connection whatsoever. You need not worry about this." The Eternal Emperor looked pleased. Ling Yan had managed this matter flawlessly. He was even more pleased that Ling Yan had chosen justice over family for the sake of the nation. This is the kind of boldness and courage a crown prince of our eternal dynasty should display. The Eternal Emperor was full of praise, unaware that the eldest prince's and second prince's expressions had darkened. Their careful plans had been completely overturned by Ling Yan. Unexpectedly, not only had they failed to trap Ling Yan, but their actions caused Ling Yan to appear even more virtuous in the eyes of the Eternal Emperor and the ministers. Ling Yan's status as the crown prince had been shaky, but after this incident, the entire court and the Eternal Emperor would recognize Ling Yan's status as the crown prince. The three of them finally had a taste of what it meant to try to gain an advantage and end up worse off. "You must be tired. Go back and rest," the Eternal Emperor said with a smile. Today, the more he looked at Ling Yan, the more delighted he grew. Ling Yan smiled and rose. "Then I will take my leave." As he spoke, Ling Yan turned to leave. When he walked past Yi Qingtang, his footsteps seemed to pause. Yi Qingtang pretended not to notice. She hid behind her whiskers and pretended to be entirely absorbed elsewhere. Ling Yan's lips curved in a faint smile. A moment later he strode away. Ling Yan had won a complete victory in today's battle. Chapter 1323 had a lot of fun one after Ling Yan left. All the ministers praised Ling Yan profusely and expressed their approval of him. Ling Yan's reputation in the court instantly grew. The eldest princes, second princess, and the eldest princess expressions were utterly ugly. The border officials and disaster victims they had brought aroused the ministers' suspicions instead, and they were taken away for questioning. After all, the receipts that Ling Yan had signed were present, causing their version of events to be viewed suspiciously. When they saw this, the eldest princes and second princess hearts thumped wildly. Fortunately, they had neither made a personal appearance nor revealed their identity when contacting these people. Even if these people revealed who had instructed them, it could not be traced back to the eldest prince and second princess. After the court dismissed, the eldest prince and the others returned to his residence. The three siblings had ugly expressions, completely unlike their expressions when they had left the residence earlier. "We were defeated by Ling Yan today." The second princess sat down, her face filled with frustration. "I did not expect what we did today would help Ling Yan instead. He not only resolved all the accusations, But he even seized the opportunity to gain everyone's approval. We have really made a huge loss today. The eldest prince's face was ashen. He had been confident of victory, but to their surprise, they had lost the entire round. Ling Yan's move had been so excellent that they were unable to guard against it. Ling Yan even accused the Mo family as well. That was really unexpected. Doesn't he know that the Mo family is his greatest source of support? The eldest prince's brows were deeply furrowed. She was perplexed by Ling Yan's accusation of the Mo family. One must know that the Mo family had always supported Ling Yan. Although the Mo family could not compare to the sacred ground of reflection or the Temple of Shadows, it held the military power in the Eternal Dynasty. It wielded great influence in the imperial court, and that was one of the reasons they had not been able to get at Ling Yan so far. But today, Ling Yan had actually accused the Mo family without batting an eye. After today, the Mo family would soon fall from power. This could not be good news for Ling Yan. Our move was lacking. The eldest prince sighed, then lifted his eyes and glanced at Yi Qingtang. Elder Yi, we were not properly prepared today and wasted your scheme. They thought that Yi Qingtang's plan was sure to work, but they had miscalculated Ling Yan's movements and wasted the opportunity. It doesn't matter. Yi Qingtang spoke casually, but she could not help but inwardly roll her eyes. Not properly prepared. What she saw today gave her an inkling of how this would play out. With the eldest prince and the others' little talent, the outcome would probably be the same even if they prepared for decades. They were no match for Ling Yan. When Lady Ghost, who was standing nearby, heard what had happened, amusement lurked around the corners of her mouth. Her gaze seemed to accidentally fall on Yi Qingtang. After today, Ling Yan's foundation will be even more stable. It won't be easy for us to touch him. The eldest prince's face was gloomy, but the eldest princess said, "In that case, can we drag Ling Yan into the Mo family's trouble?" The eldest prince had a thought and involuntarily glanced at Yi Qingtang, as he thought of asking her for help. Why was he looking at her? Yi Qingtang was speechless, but with Lady Ghost at her side, she had no choice but to say, "No." Why? The eldest princess could not understand. Yi Qingtang really wanted to tell the eldest princess it was because they were too stupid, but could only say, Ling Yan personally and publicly accused the Mo family. Chapter 1324 had a lot of fun too. He had already accused the Mo family, but they still wanted to involve Ling Yan in the Mo family scandal? How awkward would that be? If we say that it's infighting, the eldest princess was desperate. Do you think that Ling Yan will be unable to think of that? Yi Qingtang said patiently. The eldest princess lost all ideas while the eldest prince and second princess were filled with frustration. It's late. Elder Yi, you must be worn out already. Do head back to rest first. We will monitor the situation, said the eldest prince. Yi Qingtang, who was more than eager to stay away from these fools, immediately rose and left. Lady Ghost followed silently. Holy Lord, it must be difficult for you to trouble yourself over the eldest prince's matter, Lady Ghost said softly. They're seriously a group of fools. Yi Qingtang responded plainly in the demeanor of a holy lord as a hint of annoyance emerged in her eyes. Although Lady Ghost was not at the scene, she more or less knew what happened from the eldest prince's recount, and was rather impressed with Ling Yan's intelligence. You've worked hard, holy lord. Do rest early. Yi Qingtang returned to her room without uttering a word. Once Yi Qingtang left, a tiny figure appeared at the corner of the long corridor near them. Lady Ghost immediately kneeled on a knee upon noticing that figure. Greetings, Holy Son Ming Wang. Ming Wang slowly walked out from the shadows, though his eyes were fixated in the direction where Yi Qingtang left. His pitch-dark orbs narrowed slightly, and no one could guess his current thoughts. Unbeknown to Minggu and Yi Qingtang, Ming Wang headed here this morning. Holy Lord did not have any strange behavior on this trip. Lady Ghost reported honestly. She had been observing Yi Qingtang's actions silently on this trip, and did not find anything suspicious. Even when Yi Qingtang was helping the eldest prince and the rest to come up with a plan, her intelligence did not raise any doubts to Lady Ghost. Ming Wang narrowed his eyes, but his stern expression remained. Lady Ghost's words did not eliminate his suspicions. Of course, Lady Ghost was also aware that if someone was set on impersonating the Holy Lord of Shadows, she would not easily give the game away. Meanwhile, the moment Yi Qingtang returned to her room, she washed off the disguise on her face, changed her clothes, and laid on the bed. Previously, she and Ling Yan were fighting on the same line, and Ling Yan always helped her to emerge safely out of danger. Yi Qingtang already knew that Ling Yan was wise back then, but she only realized how insane his level of intelligence was now that they were on opposing sides. He could actually predict today's events a few years ago. This fellow can't be a god, can he? Yi Qingtang furrowed her brows. But it was evident that Ling Yan made preparations for the disaster relief a few years ago. She had a recurring thought that Ling Yan had planned today's incident a long time ago, such that even accusing the Mo family seemed to be part of his plan from the start. I keep feeling as though I'm being led by the nose. Yi Qingtang sighed. Right now, she was extremely admirable of those who were enemies with Ling Yan. How courageous must they be to oppose such an intelligent rival? At that instant, a sound suddenly came from Yi Qingtang's voice transmission stone. Miss Yi. Yi Qingtang took the voice transmission stone out. I thought you threw the voice transmission stone away. Yi Qingtang mumbled. She wanted to contact Ling Yan these few days and notify him of the eldest prince's plans, but there was completely no response from the voice transmission stone. Ling Yan chuckled. How would I bear to throw the voice transmission stone if I know that you will use it to contact me? Don't worry, Miss Yi. I've been keeping the voice transmission stone carefully. Chapter 1325 had a lot of fun 3-inch. So he has been playing dead these few days? I am here to thank you today, Miss Yi, Ling Yan said. What are you thanking me for? Yi Qingtang was perplexed. I had a lot of fun thanks to you, Miss Yi. Ling Yan replied with a laugh. Why did this sentence sound so strange? She suddenly had a strong urge to beat him up. What should she do? Don't get complacent so early. Your siblings have not given up the thought to kill you. They were overjoyed when you accused the Mo family. Ling Yan, you're really merciless to accuse even your fiancé. I wonder how hard she is crying right now. Yi Qingtang commented with a sigh. Ling Yan's laughter could be heard from the voice transmission stone. There is no need for anyone who is disrespectful to you to exist. Yi Qingtang was slightly taken aback. What Ling Yan said. Why did it seem like he only accused the Mo family for her? Uncontrollably, she recalled the day of the banquet when Mo Yinxian was disrespectful to her. Could it be that? Yi Qingtang shook her head out of a sudden. Wait. She could not be deceived by this darn fox. Anyway, did you predict how the eldest prince and the rest wanted to ruin you, and planned your moves a long time ago? Yi Qingtang divulged her guesses. There's no need to predict or plan anything with regard to them. Had he belittled their intelligence to such a state? I've said before that it would be very boring without your assistance, Ling Yan said gently. Forget it. I don't wish to be involved in these matters anymore. Yi Qingtang deeply believed that if this continued on, she would be thoroughly defeated by a certain someone. Although she had no choice but to help the eldest prince, she was still the one devising all the schemes. This was equivalent to her having a battle of wits with Ling Yan. God knows how tormenting this was. I'm afraid that you will still be involved even if you don't wish to. Ling Yan added on softly. The Temple of Shadows sent you here with the intention of testing you. If you don't wish to be involved, you will definitely expose yourself. She wished to die right now. Didn't you come to the central mainland to snatch back everything that belongs to you? Being in the Temple of Shadows may bring some hardships, but it is the most suitable option for you. Ling Yan said slowly as though he guessed Yi Qingtang's thoughts. The ancient Yu clan is formidable, and it is extremely difficult if you were to fight them alone. However, if you fight them as the Holy Lord of Shadows, how do you think it will turn out? I am not the Holy Lord of Shadows. Yi Qingtang frowned slightly. Is it important whether you are the Holy Lord of Shadows or not? As long as the Temple of Shadows believes that you are their Holy Lord, then you are it. Leaving aside the fact that the Temple of Shadows is formidable enough to confront the ancient Yu clan, Just those cultivation techniques that are only available in the Temple of Shadows are extremely helpful to you. They are way more effective than laborious cultivation elsewhere. Ling Yan persuaded softly. Yi Qingtang was in deep thought. She had been treading on thin ice ever since she entered the Temple of Shadows, as slight carelessness would mean death. However, her purpose for coming to the central mainland was to snatch little Yu Yun back from the ancient Yu clan. Her family, masters, and martial brothers had already disappeared. She had no inhibitions anymore. Nothing ventured, nothing gained. Miss Yi, why not take a gamble? Yi Qingtang took a deep breath. Ling Yan was right. If she was all by herself, it would take extremely long for her to confront the ancient Yu clan, no matter how hard she cultivated. And success was not even guaranteed. But if she had the Temple of Shadows, this was an opportunity. If successful, she would snatch back everything. Otherwise, she would die. I'll take the gamble. Chapter 1326 Force him to revolt. Ling Yan could not help but chuckle at Yi Qingtang's reply. Holy Son Ming Wang should have reached the capital by now. You need to do your best in playing the role of the Holy Lord, Miss Yi. Upon hearing of Ming Wang's arrival, Yi Qingtang's lofty ambitions fell apart. In the entire Temple of Shadows, Ming Wang was her largest source of pressure. He had never trusted her from the start, and even sent Lady Ghost to monitor her. And now he actually came personally. Just great. You'll have to be careful then. As the Holy Lord of Shadows, I will definitely support the eldest prince to ascend as the crown prince. Yi Qingtang sighed. The Temple of Shadows was a double-edged sword, and it would not be so easy for her to wield it to her advantage. Just bring it on, Miss Yi. I can still handle it. Ling Yan replied with a light-hearted laugh. Sighing, Yi Qingtang did not say anything much and kept the voice transmission stone. The conversation with Ling Yan today changed her mindset. Previously, all she wanted was to escape from the Temple of Shadows, but now, she must become the Holy Lord of Shadows. As expected, the eldest prince and the rest did not abandon the thought of ruining Ling Yan after their foiled scheme. They had tried different ways over the past few days. However, not only were they unable to touch Ling Yan at all, but they were even counterattacked by him. In half a month, Ling Yan's position as the crown prince was rather secure thanks to the assistance of the eldest prince and second princess. Elder Yi, Ling Yan's position is increasingly secure in my father's heart. The eldest prince wore an ugly expression in the hall. Despite joining forces with the second princess, the eldest prince's schemes had no effect at all, and helpless, he could only look for Yi Qingtang again to request for her help. Yi Qingtang was very speechless as she looked at the gloomy faces of the people in the hall. She finally realized what an incompetent teammate was like. Only people with their brains could come up with those pointless plots. She really doubted if they were truly Ling Yan's siblings. Why was there such a great difference in their intelligence, despite being born from the same parents? Stop all the plans on your hands. Otherwise, Ling Yan's position as the crown prince will only be more and more stable. Although Yi Qingtang had a smile on her face, there was a certain strictness in her tone. Noticing Yi Qingtang's actions, Lady Ghost discreetly looked over to a corner. Nonetheless, this casual action of hers did not escape Yi Qingtang's eyes. Yi Qingtang did not move, but the side of her eyes glanced over to the direction which Lady Ghost looked at. A hardly detectable aura of death lurked in the dark. It's Ming Wang? Yi Qingtang pondered in her heart and recalled her conversation with Ling Yan the other day. She secretly took a deep breath and looked at the eldest prince, as though she did not notice Ming Wang's presence. Given Ling Yan's current position, the only way you all can defeat him is to force him to revolt. Revolt? The eldest prince and second princess were taken aback. But Ling Yan is not a fool, and father dotes on him so much now. Additionally, his position as the crown prince is so stable right now, and he will become the next emperor once father is old. Why would he take such a risk? The second princess asked with a frown. Chapter 1327 Force him to revolt. Force him to revolt. Yi Qingtang narrowed her eyes with a tinge of impatience in her expression. The eldest prince and second princess looked at each other in confusion, as they were unable to understand the key in Yi Qingtang's words. Yi Qingtang was overwhelmed with helplessness at the group of incompetent teammates. General Mo is already dead, and General Wu, who took over his military leadership a long time ago, when General Wu who was having a difficult time, it was Ling Yan who helped him. Yi Qingtang did not slack off in the past few days. Since she wanted to slowly eliminate the Temple of Shadows' suspicions of her, she had to put an effort in this matter. Ling Yan rescued General Wu Hu before? Why do we not know of this? The eldest prince had a blank expression. He had investigated Ling Yan for a long time, but did not notice this at all. Yi Qingtang could not be bothered with the eldest prince and replied, Ling Yan's accusation of General Mo won the emperor's trust, but if he did it only for his trusted aide to replace General Mo, the meaning is completely different. Pausing for a while, she continued on. One will inevitably fall from the pinnacle of power. What you all need to do now is to continuously show weakness to Ling Yan and secretly support his trusted aide to ascend the position. Afterward, you all can act in secret and slowly spread rumors that Ling Yan has intentions to usurp the throne. This time, Yi Qingtang truly became serious. Otherwise, with just the eldest prince and the rest, they would not have the ability to defeat Ling Yan, even if the eternal emperor died. Everyone was stunned by Yi Qingtang's words, and they exchanged a look. What Elder Yi meant is, for us to assist Ling Yan to consolidate his power. But by then, if we cannot defeat, the eldest prince was slightly hesitant. Why do you all need to counter him? Yi Qingtang looked down slightly and said without emotion, as long as you all are able to raise the emperor's suspicions of Ling Yan, the emperor will naturally make a move out of fear of his power. Then Ling Yan will either await his doom and be stripped of his crown prince title, or revolt with his army. It's no longer important whether he really intends to usurp the throne or not, as the circumstances will force him to take action. The eldest prince and the rest were still uncertain. I am merely telling you all to show weakness on the surface, but you all can still retain your forces in secret. Once Ling Yan revolts, you all can take credit for capturing him and restoring peace. Yi Qingtang added on. The eldest prince and second princess sighed in relief upon hearing that. Elder Yes, wisdom is above all. Once Ling Yan loses father's trust, he is not far from death. The second prince truly believed that this method was vicious and forceful. Born to a royal family, they were naturally aware of how heartless an emperor would be to any child with the intention of usurping the throne. Elder Yi, may I ask how you plan to raise father's suspicions? The eldest prince questioned further. I will deal with this matter. You all don't need to worry about it. Anyways, Yi Qingtang did not hope that the eldest prince and the rest were smart, as she still needed to settle everything. The eldest prince and the rest still had some questions, but since Yi Qingtang was so certain, they believed her. Moreover, since the Temple of Shadows wanted to assist the eldest prince to ascend to the crown prince position, the eldest prince did not worry that Yi Qingtang would harm him. Thank you for your advice. The second princess rose and bowed. Although she felt that Yi Qingtang's plan was pretty good, she was not in a hurry to settle on it, as she still needed to discuss it with the advisor. Chapter 1328 Force him to revolt 3. The second princess left very soon to discuss the matter with the advisor. Yi Qingtang was not in a hurry either, as she came up with this plan very seriously, and was confident that the advisor would consent. Before eliminating Ling Yan, the Temple of Shadows and the advisor had the same goal. The eldest prince and the rest also took this time to make the preparations. They initially made many schemes to deal with Ling Yan, but after hearing what Yi Qingtang said, they hurried to cancel them. Yi Qingtang returned to her room and informed Ling Yan of her plans. She wanted to prove herself to the Temple of Shadows, but did not wish to really harm Ling Yan. However, if things developed according to her plan, Ling Yan only had 2 routes. One was to lose the crown prince title. The other was to start a military revolt. However, Yi Qingtang felt that the safest way was to lose the crown prince title, as it was temporary, and there was still a chance of gaining it back in the future. On one side, Yi Qingtang contacted Ling Yan. On the other, Lady Ghost secretly met up with Ming Wang. Holy Son Ming Wang, what do you think of Holy Lord's plan? Lady Ghost looked at Ming Wang. She had to admit that Yi Qingtang's plan was more meticulous than before, and even she herself was rather surprised. There was no expression on Ming Wang's face, and he merely looked at Yi Qingtang's tightly shut door. Secretly send someone to inform Ling Yan. Lady Ghost was stunned. What do you wish to reveal to Ling Yan, Holy Son Ming Wang? Ming Wang replied, that Elder Yi is the Holy Lord of Shadows. Lady Ghost understood immediately. Only let Ling Yan know of this matter. Ming Wang ordered coldly. Yes. Ming Wang narrowed his eyes. Assisting the eldest prince to become the crown prince was a definite, but they also wanted Ling Yan to verify Yi Qingtang's identity. In the advisor's residence, the second princess hurried to the advisor's residence at once after leaving the eldest prince's residence, and informed the advisor of Yi Qingtang's plan. After hearing it, the advisor frowned slightly. Advisor, what do you think of that Elder Yi's suggestion? The second princess asked. The advisor remained silent for a while, but the corners of his lips suddenly curled up. Not bad. The second princess exhaled immediately. The advisor continued speaking. The Temple of Shadows has been on the decline for some time, but it never lost its fundamental strength. This Elder Yi's plan is very decent, and can resolve the immediate problem. Shall I arrange people to make the preparations then? The second princess asked. The advisor nodded slightly, and the second princess immediately took her leave. After she left, the advisor slowly returned to the study, where a young man was already waiting for him. Lord Shui. The young man immediately bowed when he noticed the advisor entering. The advisor nodded but did not say anything. Lightly tapping his face with his fingertip, his aged facial features, wrinkles and white mustache disappeared in an instant. Replacing them was a face that was even more beautiful than a lattice. Are you here because Master has an order? After returning to his young face, the advisor casually sat on a chair near him and looked at the young man who kneeled before him. The young man was from the sacred ground of reflection, and was here specially for the crowning of Ling Yan as the crown prince. Master heard that the Temple of Shadows ambassador is here as well, and that she seems to be keen on supporting the eldest prince. The young man replied. The advisor looked down slightly and uttered without emotion. There is indeed such a matter, but it's fine. Reply to Master that the Eternal Dynasty situation is still in control, and that he can rest assured. Note it. Chapter 1329. You are on your own. 1. Possibly because all their earlier schemes had failed, the eldest prince and second princess were much smarter this time. They did not act precipitously, but followed Yi Qingtang's instructions, and allowed the courtiers and influence they had gathered to disperse. They began to effusively praise the crown prince, Ling Yan, when they were in court. With the help of his 3 royal siblings, Ling Yan's reputation grew daily, until it almost reached its peak within half a month. The emperor was very pleased with this, and often praised Ling Yan. Although the eldest prince was agitated when he saw this, he knew it was part of the plan. As he saw Ling Yan's power continue to grow, he could not help but worry inwardly. However, he continued to maintain a facade of brotherly affection and respect. Every day, the eldest prince and princess would tell Yi Qingtang what happened in the morning court session. Yi Qingtang was not at court, but she controlled the situation. Elder Yi, the war at the border is almost over. Although Wu Hu only recently took over the command of General Mo's troops, he acted fast and won several successive victories. He will probably withdraw his troops and return to court before long. Once Wu Hu is back, based on the connection between him and Ling Yan that Elder Yi mentioned earlier, I'm afraid. The eldest prince was worried. His greatest hope was for Ling Yan to raise troops and rebel, but to date, no such opportunity had arisen. The situation just dragged on, so he was feeling rather anxious. Yi Qingtang could tell that the eldest prince and the others were growing anxious. She said, "These are letters between Wu Hu and Ling Yan." As she spoke, Yi Qingtang placed a stack of letters in front of the eldest prince. The eldest prince could not help but feel somewhat surprised. He did not know how Yi Qingtang had gotten hold of these letters, but he opened them one by one and read them. The eldest prince was shocked by what he read. Ling Yan intends to raise troops and rebel when Wu Hu returns to the capital? The letters were full of how Ling Yan planned to form an alliance with General Wu Hu and how upon General Wu Hu's triumphant return with his troops, Ling Yan would seize the opportunity to take over the capital and force the emperor to abdicate. Eldest royal brother, have you looked carefully? Are these letters really in Ling Yan's and General Wu Hu's handwriting? The eldest prince's heart thumped as she asked carefully. The eldest prince replied, "There can be no mistake. I clearly remember Ling Yan's handwriting, and this was definitely written by him. I have also seen General Wu Hu's writing when I was at his residence, and it does look the same. Also, these letters have the crown prince's golden seal and General Wu Hu's seal." The eldest prince's heart beat wildly. If these letters were presented to the eternal emperor, Ling Yan would be finished. I thought my third royal brother was intelligent. I didn't realize he was so stupid. He exposed his own ambitions before we could think of how to trap him, the eldest princess said with a cold laugh. Elder Yi, how did you get hold of these letters? The eldest prince was greatly agitated, but he was curious as to how such secret documents had fallen into Yi Qingtang's hands. One must know that Ling Yan was always careful, and such documents could not have been obtained easily. Furthermore, Yi Qingtang had not left her residence all this while. Of course, Elder Yi must have asked the others from the Temple of Shadows to obtain them. No matter how great our third royal brother is, he is no match for the Temple of Shadows, the eldest princess said matter-of-factly. Lady Ghost's gaze involuntarily fell on Yi Qingtang. She had not seen Yi Qingtang contact anyone else from the Temple of Shadows, and had not heard Yi Qingtang mention anything about obtaining these letters. Yi Qingtang slowly sipped her tea and said calmly, "Do all of you think these documents are real?" Chapter 1330, You are on your own too. Yi Qingtang's question shocked the eldest prince and the others. Elder Yi, what do you mean? Are these documents forgeries? The eldest princess looked bewildered. I wrote them, Yi Qingtang said casually as she slowly put down her teacup. The eyes of the eldest prince and princess immediately widened in shock. These were written by you, Elder Yi? The eldest prince looked incredulous. Yi Qingtang nodded. But the seals? The eldest prince looked at the seals on the letters. Yi Qingtang flicked her wrist, and threw the seals she had carved earlier in front of the eldest prince. If you like them, you can take these and seal a few more letters. The eldest prince and princess hurriedly took the two seals and examined them again and again. Compared to the original seals, these seals were made from different materials, but their carvings and details were all identical. No one would be able to tell the difference when they were used to seal letters. The eldest prince and princess were shocked. They thought that Ling Yan was seeking his own death. They had not imagined that Yi Qingtang had forged these documents. What was even scarier was that even they could not tell that the documents were forgeries. If Yi Qingtang had not told them, they certainly would not think of it. Yi Qingtang had lived for 300 years in her previous life and spent a long time in central mainland. She also happened to know General Wu Hu, but in her previous life, General Mo had not yet died, and Wu Hu was just an ordinary officer. Yi Qingtang had seen his handwriting and also happened to see his seal. Otherwise, how would she have known about the connection between Wu Hu and Ling Yan? As for Ling Yan, Yi Qingtang was extremely familiar with his handwriting, and forging it was easy. In the 300 years of her past life, Yi Qingtang had learned various things. Things like forging handwriting and stamps were child's play to her. Show them to the emperor, said Yi Qingtang. They had prepared for a long time, all for this step. The eldest prince and princess exchanged glances. They did not linger and hurried to the palace with these documents. When Lady Ghost looked at Yi Qingtang, her expression was also filled with surprise. She had been rather curious as to where Yi Qingtang's plans were leading, but she had not expected that Yi Qingtang was already all prepared. Even if the Eternal Emperor was suspicious, the handwriting and seals were identical. It would be difficult for Ling Yan to argue. Tell me when there's news. am going to rest. Yi Qingtang did not seem to notice the shock in Lady Ghost's eyes. She lazily stood up and slowly walked to her room. Yao is so clever. Ming Gu's eyes flashed in excitement as he watched Yi Qingtang's disappearing figure. He knew that nothing was too difficult for Yao. Yao was just the way she used to be. Lady Ghost gave a small smile, but she secretly looked towards Ming Wang's position. But at some point Ming Wang, who had been hiding in a secret spot, had vanished completely. When Yi Qingtang returned to her room and ensured that no one had followed her, she immediately took out the voice transmission stone. Ling Yan am about to act. Yi Qingtang called him softly and spoke. Ling Yan's laughter rang out from the voice transmission stone. His agreeable voice was warm and held a hint of amusement. I suppose my siblings are now greatly indebted to Miss Ye's kindness. Miss Yi, no need to be merciful. Give it your best shot. Chapter 1331 You are on your own. 3 Yi Qingtang secretly rolled her eyes. Why don't you think of some way to deal with it rather than quibble with me? Ling Yan said with a laugh. Miss Yi, thanks for your concern. Yi Qingtang was about to say something when Ling Yan suddenly said, Miss Yi has a guest. I won't disturb you any longer. With that, Ling Yan broke off their connection. A moment after Ling Yan broke off the connection, a knock sounded on Yi Qingtang's door. Yi Qingtang was startled and immediately got up to open the door. Ming Gu was standing obediently at the doorway, smiling at Yi Qingtang. Yao, you little fellow, are you here to disturb me again? Yi Qingtang's lips suddenly curved in amusement, and she reached out to pinch Ming Gu's little nose. Ming Gu looked shy and lowered his eyes to hide the stiffness in his expression. Come on in, Yi Qingtang said with a smile. She turned first but secretly drew a deep breath. What the hell? Ming Wang posed as Ming Gu to look for me? Yi Qingtang was very wary of the devious Ming Wang. Although she knew that Ming Wang was here, he had yet to reveal himself. But now, Ming Wang had taken on Ming Gu's adorable and innocent look to appear in front of her. Yi Qingtang wanted to die. She had actually pinched that killer's Ming Wang's nose. Haha. Ming Gu quietly stood outside the door for a moment before he entered on his little legs. He maintained his coy appearance. Yi Qingtang tried her best to maintain her composure and did not dare to let her expression change. She sat down on a chair and gestured to Ming Gu, who was standing by her side. Ming Gu slowly walked over to Yi Qingtang, raised his little face, and threw himself onto Yi Qingtang's knee. Yao, when can we go back to the Temple of Shadows? Yi Qingtang looked at the Ming Gu before her, and her heart constricted. But she smiled and reached out to pinch Ming Gu's little cheek. We can go back when matters here are settled. Yao, why don't I find some black flame worms for you when we get back? Ming Gu said with a smile. Yi Qingtang's gut started to roil. As she looked at Ming Gu, an evil idea arose in Yi Qingtang's heart. She scooped Ming Gu up and cuddled him on her knee. A stiff look flashed across Ming Gu's eyes, but he quickly restrained himself. Yi Qingtang narrowed her eyes and smiled. Then, she used both hands to pinch Ming Gu's little face. She said with a laugh, Ming Wang, do you want to eat black flame worms so badly? What's the matter? Are you still thinking about the time Ming Gu didn't give you the black flame worm? Yi Qingtang's words startled Ming Gu. You keep on testing me. Today I will pinch you in return. Yi Qingtang took the opportunity to pinch his soft face a few more times. In a flash, Ming Wang jumped down from Yi Qingtang's lap. His smiling and innocent appearance had vanished to be replaced by his aloof and vicious expression. What's the matter? Are you so scared of me? Yi Qingtang looked at Ming Wang smilingly, but her heart was in her mouth. The real Holy Lord of Shadows would certainly be able to tell Ming Gu and Ming Wang apart. No matter how similar they looked, there was no mistaking them. Furthermore, the Holy Lord of Shadows certainly would not be afraid of Ming Wang. Chapter 1332 First Move 1 At that moment, Ming Wang's eyes, which were totally devoid of human emotion, were staring straight at Yi Qingtang, as if searching her eyes for some crack in her facade. Yi Qingtang's lips curved upward slightly, and the small smile on her face turned cold. Ming Wang, do you know how Zhuai Gong died? When Yi Qingtang mentioned Zhui Gong, Ming Wang's eyes flickered, and his brow furrowed slightly. Zhui Gong had been the most powerful tribe leader in the Temple of Shadows. His martial skills were incomparable, but at one point, he became disrespectful of the Holy Lord of Shadows. However, the Holy Lord of Shadows had cut off his head, just for showing a trace of disrespect. His body had been exposed to the burning sun until it vanished. Ming Wang, after my return, I became increasingly aware that you are somewhat like Zhui Gong. What do you think? Yi Qingtang wore an inscrutable smile. Oh! Death aura swirled around Ming Wang, and his eyes flashed. Holy Lord, please tell me how I am like Zhui Gong. Yi Qingtang sat further away, and remained motionless, though her fingers drummed a rhythm on the tabletop. Her lips arched in an inscrutable smile. So you are about to become like a second Zhui Gong. As she spoke, a cold light flashed across Yi Qingtang's eyes. Although she continued to smile charmingly, her smile was now bone-chilling. Ming Wang frowned slightly as Yi Qingtang slowly stood up, and the death aura around him vanished suddenly. He cupped his fists and said, Holy Lord, I dare not take on this charge. Zhui Gong was a criminal who offended the Lord. How can the Holy Lord compare me to Zhui Gong? When she heard that, Yi Qingtang laughed softly, and rose to walk over to Ming Wang. She bent over slightly, and lightly trailed a finger across Ming Wang's face. What is the penalty for offending the Lord? Someone who offends the Lord will certainly be put to death, said Ming Wang. Ming Wang, you are really rather adorable. I like you more and more. When Yi Qingtang finished speaking, she brushed her fingers lightly over Ming Wang's forehead. Tell me, why did you pretend to be Ming Gu? The Holy Lord is joking. The Holy Lord was the one who assumed I was my brother. I was merely playing along with the Holy Lord. I did not mean cause offense, said Ming Wang. You came to look for me. What did you want to discuss with me? Yi Qingtang withdrew her right hand, and looked at Ming Wang coldly as she spoke. I came to look for the Holy Lord to discuss the Eternal Dynasty's prince, replied Ming Wang. Speak. Yi Qingtang flicked her sleeves. Holy Lord, the current crown prince, Ling Yan is almost demonically clever. He is very difficult to deal with. Is the Holy Lord certain that she wants to offend the crown prince, Ling Yan, in order to support the eldest prince? If Ling Yan can be brought down, that is well and good. However, if he cannot. As he spoke, Ming Wang was secretly studying Yi Qingtang's attitude and her subtle reactions. However, Yi Qingtang remained completely calm and unruffled, and he could not discern anything that was amiss. If the Holy Lord needs to, we can support the crown prince Ling Yan to ascend the throne, Ming Wang said. When Ming Wang finished speaking, Yi Qingtang laughed coldly. Her lips curled upwards, and an eerie look appeared on her face. You're implying that I may be afraid of Ling Yan. Before Ming Wang could speak, Yi Qingtang's eyes flashed coldly. Ming Wang, as one of the two holy sons in the Temple of Shadows, how can you be afraid of a prince of a human dynasty? I'm afraid you are not suited to be the holy son. Supporting the eldest prince to ascend the throne is a small matter. I am willing to act personally only because it amused me. If I had not thought that the eternal dynasty might still be useful, I could flick my fingers and exterminate all 18 kingdoms in this dynasty. Chapter 1333 First Move 2-inch Holy Lord. I meant that Ling Yan is an intelligent person, many times more intelligent than the eldest prince. Why shouldn't the Temple of Shadows support Ling Yan instead of the eldest prince? The Temple of Shadows needs intelligent people more, Ming Wang said thoughtfully. Wrong. Yi Qingtang shook her head. The Temple of Shadows does not need intelligent people. When you have absolute power, any plot can be easily broken. When he heard that, Ming Wang remained silent for a moment before he said, The Holy Lord is right. I was overly concerned. You may leave. Yi Qingtang waved her hand somewhat impatiently. When he heard Yi Qingtang's words, Ming Wang turned to leave. When she was sure that Ming Wang had left, Yi Qingtang broke out in a cold sweat. Her entire body was already soaked in sweat. Today was just too dangerous. This Ming Wang is not to be underestimated. If she had not forced herself to remain calm, so that Ming Wang could not see through her, She might have lost the secret duel with Ming Wang just now. The consequences were unimaginable. Ming Wang's every word was a test of whether the Holy Lord of the Temple of Shadows was authentic or not. Like his suggestion that they support Ling Yan. If she had agreed, she would probably have paid with her life there and then. With the Holy Lord of Shadows' power, she could exterminate the Eternal Dynasty with a flick of her fingers. She had no need to fear Ling Yan's demonic intelligence. Even the Zhuigong incident was something that Yi Qingtang had heard of in her previous life, which was why she could speak about it. Fuck, that holy son Ming Wang is really formidable. The little white tiger swiftly poked his head out and leaped onto the bed. The holy son Ming Wang has begun to suspect your identity. Fortunately, you managed to present a calm front. Otherwise, you would have already lost your head, the little white tiger said seriously as it looked at Yi Qingtang. Yi Qingtang did not refute any of the little white tiger's words. Ever since she became the Holy Lord of Shadows, the holy son Ming Wang had been suspicious of her identity from the moment they met. With holy son Ming Wang's personality, if he discovered the truth, she would immediately die a terrible death. It was really difficult to pose as the Holy Lord of Shadows. Just as Yi Qingtang was sighing secretly, she heard another knock on the door. Ah Yao! Yi Qingtang got up and opened the room door. The holy son Minggu was standing at the doorway. He looked at Yi Qingtang in shock and said, Ah Yao, I just saw my elder brother leave your room. It was nothing. I was just discussing something with Ming Wang. Yi Qingtang explained. Minggu was filled with suspicion. He thought that Ming Wang was not coming this time, so why had he suddenly arrived? Minggu wanted to enter the room and chat with Yi Qingtang, but Yi Qingtang dismissed him, saying that she needed to rest. Meanwhile, the scheme to force Ling Yan to rebel went forward without any pause. Right now, Ling Yan's influence was growing, and General Wu Hu's power was growing in tandem with his. Ling Yan's influence and reputation within the Eternal Dynasty reached unprecedented heights, especially as the eldest prince and second princess continued to present their weak flank to Ling Yan. Many of the ministers had already secretly signaled their favor of Ling Yan. At that moment, in the palace of the Eternal Dynasty, in the main hall, Royal Father, the eldest prince kneeled on one knee and gazed at the Eternal Emperor. The crown prince is intriguing to kill the emperor and seize the throne. Chapter 1334 First Move 3 At that moment, the Eternal Emperor was grimly looking at the letters that the eldest prince, the eldest princess, and the second princess had handed him. These letters were private correspondence between Ling Yan and General Wu Hu. Their contents were treasonous and heinous. The Eternal Emperor studied the documents over and over. The seals on the documents did belong to General Wu Hu, and the handwriting matched Ling Yan's handwriting. Ling Yan's faction had recently reached the peak of its powers. Summon the Crown Prince. The Eternal Emperor was raging in the palace. Half a day later, Ling Yan arrived in court. The Eternal Emperor immediately flung the letters in Ling Yan's face. Look at this. When he heard that, Ling Yan opened the letters and studied them for a moment. Ling Yan, what explanation can you give? The Eternal Emperor glared at Ling Yan and roared at him in rage. Royal Father, please don't be angry. Ling Yan's lips curved upwards slightly in a mysterious smile as he looked at the Eternal Emperor. I think that someone might have forged these letters. Oh. The Eternal Emperor grunted coldly. In that case, I give you 3 days to get to the bottom of the matter. I will take my leave. Ling Yan turned to leave. Royal Father, do you really believe that these letters were forged? The eldest prince saw that the situation was going against them and spoke hurriedly. Even they had not been able to tell that these letters were forged. But just based on a few words from Ling Yan, the Eternal Emperor looked at the eldest prince and second princess and said, keep a close eye on Ling Yan. If he shows any sign of treason, kill him. The eldest prince immediately looked delighted at the Eternal Emperor's words. He hurriedly cupped his fists and said, don't worry, Royal Father. I will certainly play my part. With that, the eldest prince and second princess turned to leave. The eldest prince and second princess were overjoyed. This elder Yi from the Temple of Shadows had really come up with a good scheme. Since their royal father had ordered them to keep an eye on Ling Yan, would it not be up to them to say whether Ling Yan had any treasonous intentions? Summon all our troops, contain Ling Yan. At that moment, the eldest prince was speaking coldly with a stern expression. Even if we kill Ling Yan within the capital, we can explain it to our royal father by saying that Ling Yan was prepared to raise troops and rebel. The second princess smiled slightly. This time, they would not need the advisor or the Temple of Shadows to kill Ling Yan. They could easily finish the job themselves. A moment later, two generals were leading hundreds of soldiers clad in black armor to surround the city gates. Here he comes. The eldest prince's gaze fell on Ling Yan, who was walking by himself in front of them. Royal brother and sister, what are you doing? Ling Yan had arrived at the city gate and looked at the eldest prince and second princess with some surprise. The eldest prince scoffed coldly and said, Ling Yan, you deceived and defied the emperor. You planned a revolt to kill the emperor and seize the throne. Do you admit to your guilt? What? Ling Yan frowned slightly. Third royal brother, you have been writing to traitors. The evidence is irrefutable. There is no way that you can deny it, the second princess said with a cold laugh. She looked at the troops clad in black armor that were standing behind her. Kill. Just a moment. At that moment, Ling Yan smiled faintly and spoke softly. What's the matter? Are you regretting it now? The eldest princess looked disdainful. Since you dared to rebel, you better be prepared to lose your head. My elder royal sister makes sense. Ling Yan nodded. But I haven't denied the charges yet. When they heard that, the eldest prince and second princess were taken aback. What did Ling Yan mean? My royal elder brother and sisters are incomparably intelligent, so I shall just speak plainly. Ling Yan looked at them, and his lips curved slightly. His expression was incredibly sinister. Seal the capital. Chapter 1335 Checkmate 1 inch. What did you say? The eldest princess thought she misheard him. What did Ling Yan say just now? Seal the imperial city. However, the moment Ling Yan spoke, millions of black armor troops proceeded to seal the entire imperial city immediately. At this instant, General Wu, who led the black armor troops through the city gate without any emotions, and walked to Ling Yan's side. He kneeled and greeted him. Emperor, the men are deployed. No one is allowed to leave this imperial city today. Very good. Ling Yan replied with a smile. You all. The eldest princess was completely dumbfounded as she looked in disbelief. This General Wu, who actually addressed Ling Yan as the emperor. Ling Yan, how dare you revolt? The eldest prince hollered furiously. The eldest prince never thought that Ling Yan really dared to revolt. Moreover, looking at the current situation, it was obvious that Ling Yan already had a detailed deployment before, which thus allowed him to hide millions of black armor troops around the imperial city. Impossible. The second princess shook her head in disbelief. No matter how intelligent Ling Yan was, it was definitely impossible to hide millions of black armor troops in the imperial city. Did father not sense anything at all? How could it be? The eldest prince, eldest princess, and second princess started an armed revolt to murder the emperor and usurp the throne. I executed them on the spot. But unfortunately, father failed to be rescued and was already killed by the three rebels. Ling Yan looked at the three royal siblings with a seeming smile and said, Ling Yan, what are you saying? The eldest prince trembled slightly in disbelief. Eldest royal brother, you colluded with eldest royal sister and second royal sister in the revolt, sealed the imperial city, and killed father. I brought General Wu Hu to rescue father, but it's too late, unfortunately. Right? Ling Yan looked at the eldest prince with a slight smile. Nonsense. Ling Yan, how audacious of you. The eldest prince shouted. Is that so? A devilish smile emerged on Ling Yan's face. You three are merely chess pieces. Afterward, without giving them a chance to speak, Ling Yan told General Wu Hu, how can the game go on if these three people aren't killed? I'm afraid father will be disappointed as well, won't he? Kill. General Wu Hu nodded and ordered the numerous black armor troops. How dare you all? I am supported by the Temple of Shadows. Who dares to kill me? The eldest prince shouted coldly. I am supported by the sacred ground of reflection. Who dares to kill me? The second princess shouted as well. Swoosh. Yet the moment they finished their sentences, the eldest prince, eldest princess, and second princess were beheaded in a flash. Ling Yin watched in smiles without a hint of sympathy as the three headless bodies collapsed to the ground. Our game can only go on this way. Isn't that right? Ling Yin chuckled. After the trio was killed by Ling Yin, war drums suddenly echoed in the imperial city. Subsequently, the Eternal Emperor appeared before everyone along with the rumbling drums. His eyes were cold, but a hint of mockery emerged when he glanced at the corpses of the eldest prince, eldest princess, and second princess. Crown Prince Ling Yin committed a serious crime by plotting to usurp the throne and killing the eldest prince, eldest princess, and second princess. The Eternal Emperor shouted furiously in a voice like that of rolling thunder. Father, the game is now more interesting with your appearance. Ling Yin smiled briefly at the Eternal Emperor. Yi Qingtang rushed over after hearing that the eldest prince gathered troops to counter Ling Yin. Currently, she hid in a secret corner with the little white tiger in her arms and observed the exciting show. You're tuning in to the Li Mei's Wuxia Whispers YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.